Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the live Q&A here for Chiefs Digest. I am Matt Derrick. Joining us later in the show for Q&A day will be Nick Jacobs from KSHB 41, our good friend Nick. Luttrell, yes, hooray, hooray! It is Q&A day. Always glad to be able to get that, and you got that one first comment in this week. So very, very happy and very, very excited to see you. Thanks, Luttrell, for getting that in. And yes, it is that close to the preseason. We are 4 days away. We are definitely in training camp mode where I simply do not know what day of the week it is on any given day. And especially if there's been a day off the day before, I'm convinced, my body's convinced it's a Monday. So Tuesday has felt like Monday all day to me. I and the strange thing is that despite the fact that it felt like a Monday, I was fairly convinced that it was Wednesday most of the day. So that just tells you how messed up that I am during camp. It did not, however, stop me from being able to get my victory today. For those of you who may not have been following along on Twitter and social media over the last few years, I've created myself my own little rivalry between me and whoever shows up at Chiefs practice first for the Chiefs. Started a few years ago when two things happened. One, Vitaly Gurman, a former offensive lineman for the Chiefs, who was an undrafted rookie free agent that year, was the first one to show up to practice it every day. It just kind of struck me as interesting and notable. So I thought I would just start keeping track of it. And then it occurred to me that if I turned it into a competition, then that might actually drive me to be at work early and ahead of time every single day, since mornings are my least favorite time of the day. I'm not a morning person, do not do well. So I thought if I made a competition of it, just like, hey, I guess, Chiefs quarterbacks do with their competitions, guess me and Mahomes, just two peas in a pod, that then I would start arriving to work early, which for me in training camp, not an easy thing to do. So been doing this now, I guess it's at 3 or 4 years I've been doing this, and for a couple of years, none of the Chiefs really knew what was going on. Vitaly knew what was going on, so and he was happy to get that victory. This year, yes, I have run into the GOAT of arriving early at Chiefs practice, kicker Harrison Butker, who has been arriving at the field. I mean, I can tell you today because I finally beat him after 11 straight losses. I finally caught up and was able to beat Harrison to the field today. Literally walked on the field at 8 o'clock. I am fairly confident that Harrison Butker has been walking on the field at 8 o'clock every single day of training camp. So that tells you, hey, one, I think gives you insight into Harrison Butker that, hey, this guy's got a routine. He's going to do something every single day. He's going to do it the exact same way. He's precise. And remember, he's walking on the field at 8 o'clock. Practice doesn't start until 9:15. And hey, he's he would love to do some warm-ups before practice, and and his fellow specialists would as well. And that's the funny thing, is that Ariza and Winchester have been coming down earlier too. Now they were not down at 8 o'clock. Harrison had the field to himself for probably about 20 minutes until Jeff Bossa came along, and then Winchester and Ariza came down a little bit later too. But Winchester had the field, or Butker had the field to himself for a considerable amount of time. But today I got there at 7:45 just so I could try and get my one win of training camp against Harrison Butker. I did not want to get shut out. So yes, I am now 1-11 against Harrison Butker. And I feel like, any team that's like 0-11 or 0-14 that finally gets off the schneid, it is party central. So very excited, Chris. Very excited to get the win. Harrison has been a brutally tough competitor. Yeah, I don't know if I can get another win. If I'm going to have to be there at 8 o'clock for a 9:15 practice every single day, it's possible it could happen Wednesday. I could go back to back if I really try for it, because I do have a radio appearance, phone interview with the Border Patrol, 810 Border Patrol. Actually, I was going to say it's New Day with SSJ, but SSJ is on vacation on Wednesday, so I'll be talking to Todd Lebo. So that was why I was starting to not say it was going to be New Day with SSJ. It would go by the old name of the show. But I may have to try and show up at 8:00 just so I'm there, so I have a quiet place to talk, and we can get everything done ahead of time. So we'll see if that works out or not, or if I come in a little bit later. But I got my win, Chris. Thank you very much. Has Father Time caught up with me? I think I just ran to the GOAT. Harrison Butker's the GOAT of arriving early, and hey, we'll see if it happens next year. Maybe he'll get into a new routine and be a little bit different. You never know. So we'll see what happens. But as for everything going else off in Chiefs land, I don't know that I have really anything major to talk about as far as opening monologue goes. The injury list today was much shorter, back down to just 4 players on the injury list. Obviously, of most note is Hollywood Brown, still out with an ankle injury. I did not see him come down today. He was he was the only of the 4 injured players who I did not see come down to the field and to the kind of training tent on the side. Drew Tranquil with the back issue was over there. Jake Breeningstool with the hamstring was over there, and Christian Fulton, who remains on the PUP list, coming back from the knee surgery, was over there as well. Still told there's a possibility that Christian Fulton is taken off the PUP list at some point this week. Still might be next week. No, I'd say a friend of the program, Jordan Schultz, was the one who reported last week that that Hollywood might only be out a day. I've been around long enough to know that when the Chiefs in training camp say that a guy might be out a day, it's going to be longer than a day. So I thought there was distinctly good chance that we wouldn't see Hollywood until today after the off day on Monday, but still no Hollywood. So Andy Reid was kind of unclear the other day when he talked about the severity of that injury and whether or not it was just a typical ankle sprain or if it's a high ankle sprain. I mean, if it's a high ankle sprain, there's always a chance you're not seeing Hollywood until maybe close to week 1. I mean, we may not see him during the preseason. We'll see what happens, but no real update. We will talk to Andy Reid on Thursday, so that's going to be the next chance to maybe get some clarification if Hollywood has not returned to practice by then. Typically, like today, if a player isn't down on the field, it's usually because they're receiving treatment back in the facility. Could be receiving a treatment back in Kansas City. Could be seeing a doctor. You never know. But usually it's something in that ballpark that if a player who's injured is not at practice that day and doing some work on the side, it's usually because they're getting treatment or seeing someone about the injury. So we'll see if we get any update from Andy Reid on Thursday. And Marty asking specifically about Christian Fulton. There's no real update, no new update. I mean, Andy Reid at least gave us a little bit of insight last week when he did mention finally that and acknowledge that Christian Fulton did have another cleanup surgery in May to address that knee and get things settled down. So that's what has kept him out. That's why he worked for a little bit in OTAs and the Chiefs shut him down. Had that cleanup procedure. Didn't describe it, but it sounds like it was probably a scope, something very similar to what Joan Taylor had. Now, Joan Taylor had his in March, so that's why he was on the field a little bit during OTAs and a full go once he got off the PUP list in camp. Joan Taylor a lot farther ahead. Maybe a different injury and a different issue than what Christian Fulton has. We don't know. So we'll see if we get any more clarity from Andy Reid. But yeah, Marty, I've gotten the sense that, and what I've been told is that it could be any day that Fulton is cleared. He would have to go through a brief ramp up period to get back onto the field. But I mean, and the window is closing to me as far as, whether or not we're going to get to see Christian Fulton in a preseason game. I think the Chiefs would love to be able to get him out there for at least the third game. To see what they've got before they head into the season. Otherwise, there's going to be some, kind of experimenting on the go. Spags and Dave Merritt have done that in the past at the cornerback spot. So we'll see what happens. But it certainly is indicating that he is much closer than he was to being able to get back onto the field, at least on a limited basis, and start working out. And then go from there. So no indication yet about when he's going to be a full clearance, ready to go fully. That like I said, I mean, at this point with him getting onto the field and going through the ramp up period, it would certainly take you beyond St. Joe and beyond training camp that you would be getting that done. So I would not expect now to see as a full participant Christian Fulton until probably the team gets back to Kansas City, and maybe before that third preseason game. It's just a window to get him on the field in that third game is getting pretty tight. So let's see what happens. Luttrell, do you think Taylor's injury caused some of the issues with handling stunts on the right side of the last season? I think it affected a lot of things, Luttrell, and I saw that, a few comments, that on social media, saying that, hey, this is just, nobody said anything at the time, and that this is just, an excuse after the fact, for Joan Taylor and this performance last season. This gets into one of those difficult things as sometimes reporters, because I mean, I knew that Joan Taylor was having knee problems. However, the Chiefs, hey, they didn't really, I don't think he appeared on an injury report until week 12. Now, I didn't know about the week 5 hit that he took that was causing him problems. And the Chiefs, hey, it may be a borderline call about whether or not Joan Taylor should have been on the injury report. If he's practicing in full, sometimes teams will list the player on the injury report even as a full participant just to say, hey, there's an injury going on there. Sometimes they won't. I think that there's probably a reason why the Chiefs didn't list him, is that they just didn't see it as a significant issue onto what Joan already had, because that knee was already bothering him before the season started. I mean, there was some talk about maybe that he was going to have this procedure done last offseason, and the decision was made to go ahead and let him play this season and see what happens, and then reevaluate. And obviously there was the option, once that he had the injury kind of exacerbated during the season, hey, if he had surgery, it would have kept him out for a period of time. And Joan just didn't feel comfortable doing that. I mean, he knew that the team needed him. He knew that with everything that was going on the left side of the line and guys that were struggling, and it wasn't like the Chiefs were going to feel comfortable necessarily after like pulling Wanye out, that they're going to then feel comfortable about moving over to the right side to replace Joan. So, Joan, for better or worse, he took one for the team last year, and the team knew that. I mean, there was no doubt. I mean, guys in that locker room knew how much that Joan was hurting. Now, hey, as a reporter, I'm told this, but it's not on the record. It's not, I think, nothing of that issue. So at the time, it wasn't something that we could talk about. And, and injuries are very specific that way. I mean, it is a competitive issue. And hey, I'm not in there to save the Chiefs' competitiveness. But if I'm not told by someone on the record that says, yeah, you can run with this, then it's not ethically available for me to be going around telling people that, reporting that. But I can tell you, and I did not know the specifics of it, so I did not know that specifically it was the meniscus that was torn or anything like that. I just simply knew that Joan had a bad knee that had been bothering him since 2023. 2024 was really rough for him. By the end of the season, the Chiefs were not letting him practice indoors. So there was a few weeks there at the end of the season where they didn't have him when they had to move indoors because of snow and cold weather. They were not letting him practice on that indoor turf. That's usually a bad sign for a person with a knee. If they feel like it's that bad, they're not going to let him work on the turf. That means it's a bad knee. So there was a lot of things that were going on as far as that goes with Joan. So it was significant. And so circling back and bringing it all back to your question, Luttrell, yeah, I mean, I think that there was any number of things that caused that knee caused as far as some issues with Joan's play last year. Probably less so with 2023. I don't think that, even though the knee, I understand, was bothering him in 2023, it didn't really get worse until 2024. And if there's anything I can share and show you that I think illustrates, what kind of a player that Joan Taylor is, and at least I've learned about him, that I think is significant, is that he'd never missed an NFL game until week 18 last year against Denver. He could have just gone out there and taken a snap. He had started every single game of his NFL career to that point, 99 straight regular season games or playoff games in there too, obviously. So he had an Iron Man streak of over 100 games to start his NFL career. And he felt it was important enough that he not play in week 18 and voluntarily with the rest of the team. I mean, there were obviously the Chiefs rested a lot of their starters in week 18 against Denver. I mean, nobody would have begrudged Joan Taylor if he said, hey, I'd like to keep my streak going. Guys have done this before, just played part of a game to keep their streak going. He could have done that. But the fact that, and I don't think anybody truly understands how important that those kind of streaks are to players. Those are important. They matter, and they're a big deal. So the fact that Juwan, felt like that he needed to sit out that week 18 game to try and get himself ready for the postseason, to get that knee just a little bit better, I think it says a lot about him. Because like I said, there's some players in the league, and I'm not even saying they're selfish. It's just, sometimes how important those streaks are. They might have played even just a few snaps, practice during the week so that they could play in that game and just like play one drive to keep the streak going. And he didn't do that. So I think that tells you a little bit about just where he was at the end of the season. So yeah, I do. I think that injury absolutely affected him. I do not believe it was an excuse, because it was, like I said, not common knowledge at the time, but it was an understanding at the time that was an issue. So those are my 2 cents on Juwan and that knee and kind of what happened last season. I think he played through a lot of issues last year, and and he talked about the fact that he was getting his knee drained almost on a weekly basis by the end of the season due to the swelling in that knee. That's what football players go through, and then some of you might say, hey, that's the job, and if you're hurt and you get all that done, you still got to perform. That's a legitimate point too. So I'm not going to argue with you, but that's just for your understanding and the background about the situation. That's my 2 cents about it. Second question. How excited are you for the pass rush this year? I mean, it should be better in theory, even though it's a lot of the same characters, and you're certainly losing Tershawn Wharton, which is not an insignificant loss. I mean, Turk, as far as just his numbers and everything that he put up, I mean, and he's also, I think it was a contributor of some things that just even beyond the box score that Turk did for you. But now this looks like the first time in a long time that the Chiefs are going to have their top 3 edge rushers all together, healthy to begin the season, with Mike Dana, George Karlaftis, and Charles Omenihu. Then you've got the possibility of Ashton Gelati improving upon that. I don't know how much I'm really expecting, from Felix, but I think, with your top 4 edge rushers, I think the Chiefs are better than they were a year ago. I mean, especially look at it at any point, and even with like Omenihu coming back at the end of the year, Charles Omenihu was not himself at the end of the season last year. So I think their front 4 at the edge is going to be better. I'm always going to believe in Chris Jones. He's going to make an impact. I like Omar Norman Lott. I'm interested to see how they do use him, how much they're able to use him. I've said I'm a little worried about the bump up in snaps, considering that he played about, I think, 245 last year. He's been in that 230 to 245 range most of his college career, and now if you're talking about bumping him up to 600 plus, that's a heavier workload. That's when you could hit your rookie wall. So I'll be interested to see how the Chiefs do use him and sprinkle him in. If it's that Omar Norman Lott is just hit the ground running from week 1, or if they bring him along slowly throughout the year, wouldn't be a surprise. A lot of this Chiefs pass rush, Luttrell, I do think will come down to just how much production they get from the inside and support from the inside. They need it. They'll need to get some production. I mean, they need Chris Jones to get some sacks from there, and they'll need some help too. And I think Jerry Tillery, hey, once again, not necessarily the big number sack guy, but at least being able to maybe give you the occasional pressure, but also just be a space eater on the inside to make things easier for everybody else. I mean, that's kind of sometimes the jobs of some defensive tackles. Not everybody's a Chris Jones that can wreck things on the inside. Sometimes your best job as a defensive tackle is just to make other guys' lives easier. So And then again, I mean, it's a Spags defense. So if they're going to get the like 55 sacks again, as they did in 22 and 23, they'll do it because they're getting pressure from everywhere. And they've got the blitz game going. And I can say from, especially watching their team blitz that they do on a daily basis, they usually have a lot of success in that session. And Mahomes has had some success too, but I like some of the blitz schemes that Spags and this group have been working on. They can obviously blitz from any direction, from anybody at any time. It's fun to watch. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be fun to watch this team go after the quarterback, and they should be better than they were a year ago. Can they go back up to being number 2 in the league with 50 plus sacks? Let's see. I mean, I'm a Show Me State, Missouri guy. You all know that. So we'll see what happens. But I think the pass rush should be better than it was a year ago. Bobby with the super chat. Thank you very much. What are you hearing when Hollywood and Fulton will return? And like I said earlier, I mean, Fulton, it sounds like could be any time as far as coming off the PUP list. Will be a little bit more before he's ramped up to full go. That's why I say that even if he gets on the field in St. Joe here in the next few days or early next week, probably won't see him as a full participant at any point in St. Joe. It probably will not be until they get back to Kansas City, just have 5 more practices in training camp. So that would really be at the extreme. I mean, if Fulton came back tomorrow, then maybe he could be a full go by the end of camp. But I think it certainly rules him out at this point of playing in at least the second preseason game. Now we're just talking about whether it would be third, but his return in theory should be pretty soon. Hollywood is a little bit different. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, we don't really know the nature of that ankle injury, if it's a high ankle sprain or not. Andy Reid was a little vague and not entirely transparent on that the other day. I'm going to try and get a more clear answer. I'm sure my colleagues may beat me to it, but we're going to try and get a more clear answer on Thursday if we don't see Hollywood back by then. So we'll see what happens. But it's a little concerning, obviously, with Hollywood whenever he's hurt, because it's been an issue for him in the past seasons, and you certainly don't want to see him starting off the season with something that's going to slow him down. But I think you may get challenged with the question of, hey, do you rush back Hollywood to get him back for the beginning of the season, especially if you end up with a suspension for Rashee Rice and you want him back fast? Like if let's say it is a high ankle sprain, I mean, that's something that is going to need him to be down a little bit longer. If you do that, he's probably if it is, and that's assuming it's a high ankle sprain, which we've not been told and don't have any confirmation of. Just Andy Reid was very vague about whether it was or was not a high ankle sprain the other day. That kind of brings it into question. So they're two different things. I mean, just an ankle sprain versus a high ankle sprain, low ankle, high ankle. I mean, those can absolutely affect you differently. So it'd be a much longer period of time that it limits you. And with Hollywood, I mean, I think if you want him to be at his best, I think you give him as much time as required to get him to be 100%. I don't know that you push Hollywood out there. We'll see what happens. I say that a lot tonight. I apologize. I'll try to be definitive when I can, but I mean, you asking some questions right now so far that I feel like could go a couple of different ways. So I just don't have clarity on yet, but hopefully we will get there. After I answer Bobby's question, I need to go back to the beginning. I told Nick I'm going to be trying a little bit more streamlined tonight, not necessarily lightning round all night long, but just trying to be a little bit clearer and more concise. So hopefully that will mean my answers will be better, but let's just see. There you go. I'm going to see what happens again. Oh, thank you, Sharon. Appreciate it. Not that, although there was a couple of days when I did not want to get out of bed, Sharon. It's, those 6 o'clock early morning. I'm not an early morning guy. So Jackson, it was a pleasure to meet you as well. I got to meet Jackson today at camp. Came over to the media area and was nice enough to say hi. Met a few folks. Kevin stopped me. I'm trying to remember if that was today. I think that was today that Kevin stopped me. One of the folks working out at training camp to say that they watched the podcast and enjoyed it. So that, I mean, if you want to stop me and say something nice, I'm definitely not going to stop you. That's very, very kind of you. But it definitely just always makes me feel good when there's people out there who do enjoy what we do and appreciate it. So thank you all for the kind words. Like I said, Jackson, Kevin, Ben. I know there's probably a few others that I have forgotten and some people that I've met at training camp. So thank you all very much for the kind words and for saying hi. Round Rock, I know KSHB 41 is carrying preseason locally, but is there a legal way to stream the games outside the metro? Good question. I'll bring this up with Nick to see about what the options are. Because I don't know that if any of them, I know that obviously the games are usually rebroadcast on the NFL Network at some point. I don't think that any of the Chiefs games are live on any NFL Network. And they will be available on the Chiefs television network at some stations around the Midwest. If you're outside the Midwest, that's where it gets a little bit iffy. I don't know about streaming though. I don't think that there is a specific streaming option. I don't know if there's one through the Chiefs website. We're going to check with Nick and see on the answer to that, because if there's anybody who would know, it would be Nick. And I know last we talked, I think they were still trying to figure out some of those logistics. I know that's the tough thing is for the preseason games is for fans that live outside of Kansas, Missouri, even because I think they have stations in Nebraska and Iowa that carry the games. Maybe even Arkansas. I'm not sure about that, but there are some stations in the Chiefs television network that have it. And I think that there are some options with like NFL Plus that may have the preseason games. If it's not NFL Plus, it's NFL Premier that's paying for getting access to the games, which, yeah, if you're, I don't blame anybody who's not wanting to pay for a preseason game. So I have no judgment there. If I was the NFL, I think I'd make preseason games free to stream on, NFL's app, but that's just me. So I'll save this Round Rock. I'll come back to you and see when Nick comes in, if he can give us a good answer. I definitely appreciate the support for the win over Harrison. That meant a lot to me. I had to get that one win. Dog Petter, do you think it's possible Pacheco gets traded at the deadline if Mitchell overtakes him for RB1? I mean, if that took place, if that happened, it's possible. I don't think that and part of it's just because, one, I think the Chiefs are going to end up having a running back by committee this year as it is. So and Mitchell could absolutely be in that place. I mean, if they carry 4 running backs into the season with Mitchell and Brashard Smith, then hey, I think you're talking about a running back by committee. And at that point, I don't know that the Chiefs would want to give up any of the depth. I mean, those are the 4 guys that they like the most. After that, you would be looking at, they've got and Elijah Young has been in camp, and there would be some other free agents that come along. I mean, sometimes the Chiefs obviously will add some other free agents onto the practice squad, maybe a 5th or a 6th back. Hey, we're going to still figure out where Carson Steele fits into this whole thing, if he makes the 53 or not, or if he's a practice squad candidate. Maybe if he hits waivers, another team might claim him. You never know. I don't think it's likely though, Dog Petter. And I think that right now, based on what I've seen in training camp and what I've heard in training camp, I think that's a long leap for Mitchell. I think he's still showing a little bit of an adjustment to the offense, maybe a little bit of rust. Let's see what happens in the preseason. It's been a couple of years now for Mitchell since he's had a really explosive season, and that's what the Chiefs want in that running back spot. They want an explosive guy, and they'd like for Mitchell to be that. I'm just not sure if he's completely shown that yet. I mean, he is a different, style of back than either Pacheco or Hunt. But I also know the Chiefs love Isaiah Pacheco. So even though I've theorized in the past that I think that Pacheco could actually be a decent trade candidate if they wanted to get some resources in, because I think they've got some guys, and especially if, like you said, if Mitchell came in and showed what he's got, if Brashard Smith played well. But based on what at least I think we've seen through camp so far, one is that I think Mitchell still has a ways to go before you'd be comfortable with that scenario. And two, as much as Nick and I love Brashard Smith, I think he still needs more polish as a running back. I still think he can be a weapon in this offense, and I think they're going to throw the football to him a lot. How much he's going to touch the ball in the backfield as a running back, I think, is a little bit. I would hazard to guess and to bet that Brashard Smith is going to have more catches than touches. Well, running than carries. We'll put it that way. More catches than rushing attempts this year. That's my bold prediction. I don't even know it's going to be that bold. I think they're going to throw the football to him a lot, but I don't know how much that, barring injuries, how much Brashard Smith's going to run the football. How much can Mitchell overtake Pacheco? I mean, he's going to have to climb over Kareem Hunt too, and that's where I think it gets a little bit more difficult. So, Jackson, do you think the Chiefs will try to feature Thornton in the preseason to potentially trade him for a later round pick? Entirely possible. I mean, the Chiefs did manage to kind of do the same thing with Amir Smith-Marset a few years ago when they shipped him to Carolina for a late round pick. I'll be honest right now. I mean, I think the indication I get from the Chiefs is that they want Thornton on this roster. I think right now, if they had to put their 53 together, I think Thornton would be on this. It's going to be a really tough decision and some number counting at the end, because it's going to be a challenge with, hey, you got Hollywood's injury to figure out and where that's at. You're going to have Rashee Rice's suspension. That could be an issue. Then, if those guys are available, there's those 5 receivers right there. If Thornton makes the team, that's 6. I've talked to people who will say that 7 is a possibility for the Chiefs, and it wouldn't surprise me. But again, a big part of it is going to be, who's going to be the punt returner. If Brashard Smith can return punts, I don't know if I see a path to the roster for Nico Remigio. And I say this, a guy who I've always been high on Nico. I mean, I know his limitations, but I think he's a good player to have around. Hey, if you can get him on the practice squad, great. But he's a reliable, if not explosive, punt returner. He's just not going to make a lot of mistakes. He can do a lot of things for you in that regard. Chiefs just don't have a lot of trust and faith in him on the offensive side. So he's going to be the last receiver in the group. So if they have 6, he's going to be the 6th man. If they have 7, he's going to be the 7th man. He'd be up every week because he's returning punts, but that's his way to make a difference on this team and to contribute. So if he can do that, then, but I honestly, I mean, and only if the Chiefs are down to keeping 6 receivers and it comes down to Nico or Tyquan Thornton. If they have to have a punt returner, then it's probably Nico. Although we're now seeing the Chiefs going from just purely using Thornton as a gunner to now getting him some reps as a returner. So that can change the question too, because then if Thornton can return kicks and return punts, and you got Brashard Smith and you feel comfortable with him, then that probably solidifies Thornton's spot and makes it a lot more difficult for Nico. And it's not an if. I mean, Brashard Smith is making this team, but if Brashard Smith and Tyquan Thornton are both on this team, it makes the path for Nico Remigio just a little bit more difficult. And that's true for the other guys in that group too. I mean, like Jason Brownlee and Sky Moore. It just makes it a whole lot more difficult for them to make it if Tyquan does end up with that 6th wide receiver spot. And right now, I think it's his. Chiefs fan 1587. Do you think the Chiefs will keep 6 or 7 receivers on the 53-man roster this season, and why? Great timing. I guess I was kind of leading into this without even realizing it. Yeah. Part of it will be, what happens with Rashee Rice at the beginning of the season. If he's suspended to start the season, then, I mean, I think the Chiefs still open with 6 receivers. I think they're going to open with 6 regardless. But if Rashee is suspended, I think they definitely open with 6. And now it's just a question of who are the 6. I think obviously Tyquan Thornton would be a lock at that point. Then the question would be, is it Rico or somebody else? I think that would gives you at least the luxury if Rice is suspended to start the season and or Hollywood is hurt to begin the season. I think that obviously opens things up to have a roster spot for Nico. I just don't know if I can make a compelling case for 7 receivers. I think that's hard to do, especially because I think I can make a really compelling case for 4 tight ends more so than 7 receivers, and 4 running backs than 7 receivers. It'll obviously come down to, hey, if they can get away with 9 offensive linemen, that opens up a spot a little bit. Between offensive line and the quarterbacks, you got 11 players there. Let's say 4 for running backs. That gets you to 15. Now you're probably looking at 10 spots for tight ends and for receivers. So if it's 3 tight ends and 7 receivers, that's doable. 4 tight ends, 6 receivers, that would be that what happens there. I just feel like that Travis Kelce and Noah Gray are making this roster. Jared Wiley, I think, has to make this roster. I'm just not convinced how much that Jared Wiley is ready to go. As we talk about all the time, and it is a little bit easier for skill players, but guys just coming back from ACLs are not 100%. And I don't think that Jared Wiley is 100% yet either. But Robert Tonyan has had a really good training camp. He had a really good OTA period too. If he keeps this up, I just don't know how you don't keep Tonyan on this roster. I think he's just been too good. But that's my take on it. I can't say that Brett Veach and his staff necessarily agree, but I think Robert Tonyan, and I think, and I know, hey, there are definitely people in the organization that would agree, and they know what kind of a camp that Robert Tonyan's had, and the fact that Chiefs put him on the podium today is a pretty good indication about what they kind of camp that they think he has, and that his battle for a position on this roster is pretty legit. So let's see, where are we going next? Steven St. John doesn't hate anyone, Brian. Alex, is Worthy what the Chiefs hoped Hardman was going to be? Ooh, interesting question. I see where you're going with that. I think I want to, just instinctively, I want to lean towards yes. I think that's a really good, comparison. And Worthy is not like, I'm going to apologize, everybody. Sorry for the sneeze. Worthy's not like a duplicate copy of Tyreek Hill or anything. And the Chiefs were kind of drafting that at the time because there were so many questions about Tyreek when Hardman was. We've talked about that and just the timing of that whole thing. So part of me is like, I don't even know if the Chiefs had a really good idea of what they hoped Mecole Hardman would be, other than just somebody that could help them out if they lost Tyreek or Tyreek wasn't available. Worthy, they had, I think, different expectations for, but yeah, I think that's probably a fair comparison, at least with the one season from Worthy. Now, remember, Mecole Hardman had a really good rookie season too, and then kind of started backing off of that and didn't really take that leap and that step forward. I think Worthy's going to take the step forward. He could take a step forward and not have a 1,000-yard season, just based on the fact that if Hollywood Brown is mostly healthy, if Rashee Rice is healthy, hey, Jaylen Royals contributes a little bit, and Juju's got some juice still left in him. So I'm not down on Juju at all. I think he has a really strong camp. We'll see what happens once you start facing some other teams and it gets more physical. But I've been really impressed with this entire group. So I think at this point, Worthy absolutely has been that, but I think he might be more than that. And I think it's a relatively fair comparison. Even though Worthy was a late first round pick and Hardman was a little bit later the second. They weren't taken so far apart that I don't think that you could say that their expectations were radically different. if anything, I think that the Chiefs, when they drafted Worthy, though, I will say that they had more and higher expectations for Worthy than they did for Hardman. So if you want to say in Worthy that they've already exceeded what maybe they thought they were going to get in Hardman, that's entirely possible. But I think it's a legit comparison. Andrew wanting to come in with who will be a surprise cut player. And I've been going back and forth on this one, Andrew. And I promised you all, I think on the other day on the podcast, that I was working on my 53-man roster projection. I still am. I had a little bit of a stomach bug over Sunday night and the Monday morning that threw me off my path a little bit. So I've gained ground. I'm back fully ready now, to the point where I was able to take down Harrison Butker today. So I'm feeling pretty good there. But still working on the 53. And I'm looking through to see who would be my most surprise cut so far. I mean, I know in this one, I did not have either Jake Breeningstool or Robert Tonyan on this roster at this stage, but that's going to change because I already know the change I'm going to make. And so I'm going to be, I'm good. And this roster, I'm going to be taking and keeping 4 tight ends. So whichever one that I don't keep, I mean, even though Breeningstool is just a undrafted free agent and he's been injured, he'd still be a guy that I actually am disappointed in being a cut. And there's a couple of undrafted free agents that I would fit into that category. I don't know if Janarius Robinson, Fabian Lovett would be in that category. Malik Herring, that might be a surprise cut to some, maybe not to others. Linebacker's going to be really difficult. I would be leaning towards 6 linebackers right now, which means that some combination, I think top 5 are set. It'll be Drew Tranquil, assuming he's healthy, Nick Bolton, Leo Chanel, Jeffrey Bassa, Jack Cochran. And I got one spot for Cam Jones, Cole Christensen, Brandon George, and Cooper McDonald. George and McDonald have been really good as undrafted free agents, and so either one of them is going to be a disappointment if you can't keep it. If you have to cut them both, I mean, it's a possibility. It's the way things happen. I'm not sure at the preseason that both those guys will clear waivers, though. I think they're both good contributors, and Cooper McDonald has kind of passed up Brandon George to me during training camp. I mean, Brandon George is a little bit more physical, but Cooper has just been making plays, and it looks like he's a really good special teams player too. I think you'd give Cam Jones the edge there, but I don't think it's clear cut. Cole Christensen, another valuable guy to keep around, but I think you get some practice squad possibilities with him to be able to keep him. So there could be a few different names that you fit in there. I mean, my gut right now as I go through the roster and say that if there's anyone that could be a really surprise cut, right now, I think I'd probably be leaning towards Josh Williams. It's been really puzzling where Josh Williams has been on the depth chart during training camp. So I think that, to me, he's been on the third team a lot. He's been buried a little bit. So that's where I have some questions about Josh Williams. I don't know where he fits into this roster right now, because when they've been rotating around trying to figure out who's their second and third corner, and remember, you were not even talking about Christian Fulton being in the conversation right now. The one guy who's not been part of the conversation has been Josh Williams, and I think he would be probably a more likely trade candidate. I mean, Josh Williams is a big corner, a lot of athleticism. I mean, there's still a high ceiling there. And I could certainly see some people that, hey, were with the Chiefs and really loved him coming out. He might just need a change of scenery. And, I do think it's going to be a tough spot for that last corner spot for him. So that would be my gut. I mean, and I could say, I mean, if he ends up getting traded, not technically a cut, but that's the one I think that would probably be the most surprising for Chiefs fans over the last 3 years, especially because he's part of the Fab Five. And, and hey, the Chiefs did once cut Najee Johnson, and he has come back and stuck around. So Doesn't mean it's the end, but I have right now. I have he's kind of, Josh is kind of at the end of the line, and I think that I mean I based on snaps right now, and based on what I'm seeing on the field. I mean, Chris Roland Wallace is making this team over Josh Williams. I mean, and Christian Fulton will be making this team because he's going to be one of those guys. Najee, Noel Williams. I mean, I'm getting the 6 corners without mentioning Josh Williams, and that's why I think that it's just going to be difficult for him to. I mean, if there's injuries, that changes the equation, but um, I think that's probably the guy that I'd go with, Andrew. That would be my the guy I'm kind of tabbing. Hey, Jesus, what are your expectations with wide receiver Jaylen Royals? I mean, I'm trying to be fairly modest here because once again, I mean, it's so hard with receivers during camp to really get a good feel for what they're going to give you during the season. You know, I know Herbie Teope, colleague over with KCSN, he sent me Raheem Morris's comments today about, you know, the value of 7-on-7 and, you know, just how, hey, it's not ever a scenario that you really face. So you can't really see what happens in a 7-on-7 in a NFL practice and make any necessarily conclusions about what that's going to mean for a player in a real game. And I mean, there's value that you get out of it. There's skill building that you get out of it. But, you know, if you're just watching it and you're thinking, hey, that was a great catch and, you know, 7-on-7, well, it should be. I mean, it's 7-on-7. It's built for the offense to have success. So it's not really going to tell you a lot. So I'm trying to have modest expectations for what we've seen from Jaylen Royals, and coupling with the fact that I'm just expecting that he's probably at best, I mean, barring injuries, he's going to be the 4th wide receiver and probably the 5th, because I think Juju will probably have bigger numbers than Jaylen Royals this year. So if that's the case, and I my best comp, once again, I keep circling Chris Conley, and maybe it should be a little bit higher because Royals working with Mahomes versus, you know, Conley working with Alex Smith. I mean, no knock against Alex Smith, but Mahomes is Mahomes. So a little bit different expectations there. But hey, if you got 200 to 300 yards from Jaylen Royals this year, I would take that right now. If he gets more than that, great, good for him. But I just feel like if he gets the opportunity to put up those kind of numbers, that means that somebody else is not playing. So I feel like if Jaylen Royals puts up those numbers, I'd say anything over 350 would really be. If you told me that Jaylen Royals put up more than 350 yards receiving this year, my guess is going to be, okay, then Hollywood missed some games, Rasheed missed some games, Xavier probably missed some games too. Like I said, no knock on Jaylen here. It's just the reality of receivers coming into Andy Reid's offense. Rasheed and Xavier Worthy are 2 huge outliers. And remember, Xavier Worthy was a 1st-round pick, and Rashee Rice absolutely could have and should have probably been a 1st-round pick if it weren't for some of the red flags around him. So I definitely have lower expectations for Jaylen than those 2 other guys just because of where he's come into the league. I think that's just fair and reasonable to have lower expectations for him. Alex, why do I feel like another 3-peat attempt is very possible with the young talent around Mahomes? I mean, there's a lot that's got to happen, Alex, and you still need some good luck because, knock on wood, your quarterback has been healthy for all this time. And that's what you have to have in this league. You got to have a healthy quarterback. I mean, I'm never going to bet against this team to not win a Super Bowl. And it does feel like that there's a lot of young talent around this team right now. Now, a lot of that is because I think all of us, including myself, I mean, I'm betting that this year's draft class is going to produce some players. You feel like if Josh Simmons is as good as everybody thinks and is healthy and can stay healthy, I mean, that alone is a huge fix on this team. And just I mean, if he is truly a Pro Bowl, all pro caliber player, I mean, yeah, that is absolutely going to dramatically change this team. If Omar Norman Lott and Ashton Gelati are legitimate starting players in this league, that's going to change, you know, everything. I mean, we're banking on Jeff Bossa being the same thing, but what happens if Jeff Bossa is a special teams player and Jalen Royals is a gunner and, Brashard Smith doesn't work out and, maybe Ashton Gelati hits, but Omar Norman Lott doesn't, or the other way around, or Josh Simmons gets hurt. I mean, now all of a sudden, and I'm not saying that all of these things are going to happen and all of them are bad, but any number of them could happen. And maybe you only come out of this with 2 players that are productive. Maybe it's only 1. Right now, everything's green and rosy. Just doesn't mean it's going to happen like that. But no, I mean, I think that the Chiefs and Brett Veach have done a really good job of trying to build an affordable, talented young group around Mahomes. This is going to be a big year towards that. And I mean, if the Chiefs can keep it going this year, if they keep it going and they make another deep run, and I'm not saying they have to go to the Super Bowl, but if this team ends up in the AFC Championship game again, much less the Super Bowl or winning the thing, then yeah, I mean, the window is fully open, Alex, even with the cap number that Mahomes has, because if they're able to win this year, then it's telling me that, hey, they've got a young offensive line that's locked up for the next 4 or 5 years, and that's going to go a long way towards helping their quarterback. They still need some pieces. Obviously they got 2 young wide receivers. And Rashid's, unfortunately, in year 3, that's already getting to the point where he's not necessarily young and affordable. He's going to be unaffordable here pretty soon. But no, I mean, the pieces are there, and this is a big year towards it. Here would be my bold take, Alex. If the Chiefs are going to three-peat, if it's going to be something that they can do, I think it does have to be the next 3 years. I mean, it's going to get harder and harder. So, I mean, if you're going to tell me that Mahomes is going to win 3 straight in his mid-30s, that's a big ask. So Tom Brady couldn't do it. So if anybody can do it, I mean, I think Mahomes can, but it's a tall ask, and it means a lot of good things have to go your way. Brian, why is Chris Oladokun still here? What upside does he have other than losing every game he touches? What games has Chris Oladokun lost for you, Brian? Can't believe the slander for my guy Chris. I will admit I've got a soft spot for Chris Oladokun. As a beat writer and a beat reporter, I should not admit this, but I want to be very, very clear. And I'm not like good buddies with him or anything. I've just always been impressed with how he goes about, how hard he works, how much he puts into everything, and I respect that. And he's been a good guy for this team. I mean, I'm not asking him to be on the 53. I think he's invaluable on the practice squad, because I do think hey, if you lost your first 2 guys in front of him, I mean, let's face it, whoever is your practice squad quarterback is probably not going to save the day. I do think that even at his age, that there's some things to like about Chris Oladokun, and some of what you get in a practice squad quarterback is also what they can do that has nothing to do with the game itself. And I'm going to go here, Brian. I'm going to go here and tell you that when you say that he loses every game he touches, you're giving him no credit for the wins of games that they have won, because you know who has been playing on scout team quarterback? Lamar Jackson the last few years. Every year that the Chiefs have beaten the Ravens, it's Chris Oladokun. Okay, granted, they're 1-1 in Super Bowls against the Eagles when Chris Oladokun has played Jalen Hurts on the practice squad, but Chris Oladokun's a good dude to have around for that. And like I said, I mean, he is really smart. He works really hard. There is nothing to not like about Chris Oladokun. So I'm just going to say it. And hey, if go back and watch his preseason tape, he's got a little Mahomes in him. I mean, he has worked with some really terrible 3rd-team offenses and 4th-team offenses. No offense to those guys. Everybody's trying hard, but he's been out there trying to make chicken salad sometimes, and I think he's made chicken salad, Brian. So that's all I'm saying. Give the man some credit for what he's done, because this team has won some games because of Chris Oladokun. I'm going to tell you, they absolutely have. Scott, I know Nick is listening right now and just thinks I'm totally crazy, but Scott, there's whispers that Rice Case might go to Goodell and he may not be suspended to start the season. What impact does that have on the wide receiver room as a whole, especially Thornton? I will say this guy, I have not heard anything like that. Even the Chiefs will tell you that, I mean, they're expecting a suspension. If Rashee Rice is not suspended, I mean, great for the Chiefs. I mean, that would be fantastic. I can't imagine that there's not going to be some suspension. So we'll see what happens. But setting that aside, I mean, hey, if the Chiefs start the season with Rashee Rice available and Hollywood Brown healthy, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, you've got your 5 top receivers right there with Worthy and Juju and Jaylen Royals. So then, hey, I think the Chiefs would absolutely keep a 6th receiver right now. I think that would be Tyquan Thornton, like I said. If Rice is not suspended, then it makes the battle a little bit harder for everybody else. So it makes it more challenging for Nico. He's really depending on winning that punt return job. If Nico is not the punt returner on this team, there's not a spot for him on the 53. Jason Brownlee was in that battle too. I mean, it's possible the Chiefs carry 7 receivers at some point. I don't think it's likely. I mean, it's possible, but at this point, what we've seen in camp, Tyquan has opened up, I think, enough of a lead that it's probably him and then everybody else. And Jason Brownlee's at the top of that group. And the irony, like I mentioned earlier, is that because Nico's path is as a practice, is the roster rather, is as a punt returner. He's not really in the lead necessarily, even for that 6th or 7th roster receiver spot. I mean, you go just based on first team reps, I'd put Sky Moore ahead of him as for just being a true receiver on this team. So that's how at least I feel like, hey, if Rice receives no suspension or a short suspension, it definitely shakes up that room a little bit. And then I think it makes it a lot harder for Remigio and for Brownlee, Sky, all those guys to make this team. But Thornton, I mean, right now, I think Thornton's on the team. He just has to keep doing what he's doing. And Stephen Demon, I see your question, and since it's directly for Nick, I'm gonna save it, even though it is a super chat. And I just want to always let people know when you super chat, and you do move to the top of the line. So when Nick joins us here shortly, you're going to be first up. So it's coming, I promise. Jackson, how do you think Juwan has looked in camp? I mean, I think he's looked okay. I think it's impossible to tell, really, for the most part at this point, because one, he's still splitting time with Jaylen Moore, so it's not consistent work on the right side. I'll admit, I mean, I'm not in the top of the market for being able to grade offensive linemen during camp. It's not my greatest skill set. I lean a lot more on guys like Nick who have a much better eye for it. Keeping track of everybody on the field in spots like that, not my forte. And I can watch one-on-ones too and get some looks there. But to me, I think I would say incomplete would be at least my observations on Juwan. I think you just need to see more. If what we're hearing, certainly from Juwan himself or from the Chiefs, that knee is fixed and that could make things a lot better, should make things a lot better. So I would, like I said, incomplete for me for Juwan. Others might have more solid opinions, and I'll check in with Nick on the barometer on his thoughts when he joins us here. So John, Matt, thank you for all that you do. Well, thank you very much, John. Appreciate that. With Tranquil out, who has stepped up at linebacker? Yeah, very interesting. I think it does give you insight into, what the linebacker rotation is. Jack Cochran has been stepping in that role with Tranquil out now. And that's primarily, I mean, in the base. I mean, obviously when the Chiefs go outside the base, it's a little bit different because honestly, and this may be situational in just the last few days with Tranquil out, but we have seen a lot of nickel and a lot of dime. So there have been some moments, plenty of moments where it's just 6 defensive backs out there with Nick Bolton, and not entirely necessarily related to Tranquil being out, but with Tranquil out, I mean, Cochran isn't necessarily a natural successor to Drew Tranquil. I think of anybody on the roster, I mean, Jeffrey Bossa would probably be the guy that you think about, but I don't get the sense that the Chiefs want to push him too fast, too hard. And, right now, Jeff Boss has still been mostly working with the third team. So I don't think that they just want to jump him up all of a sudden and have him start, trying to cover Travis Kelce out there. I think that they want to ease him in. So let's see what happens. But Jack Cochran's been the biggest, at least the benefactor of Drew Tranquil being out, getting the reps with the ones. That has led to Cam Jones and Cole Christensen doing most of the work with the twos. I'm trying to recall. I feel like that there may have been more work with Bossa with the twos. But again, I mean, it's just been a handful of snaps here and there. There's been a lot more cases where the Chiefs have just simply gone with three safeties in those situations, I think. I'm going to have to give it a really good look on Wednesday to see the rotations and see, because I know today it seemed like every time that I saw the second team defense out there, they just mostly had two linebackers out there with Christensen and Cam Jones. Trying to remember if there was a little bit of Cooper McDonald out there with the twos, but just a little bit. But like I said, I don't remember seeing a ton of Jeff Bossa out there with the twos, if at all. I'll have to really focus on that on Wednesday to be able to give you some better insight, and and we'll see what happens on the preseason game. That's going to be a great thing to watch for, John. Pano, hey Matt, why did Veach give Fulton such a costly 2-year contract when he needed to have known he would need the surgery and his return is questionable? He could miss a lot of the season. And part of it is that my understanding is that the Chiefs didn't know that Christian Fulton was going to need the surgery. That was something that popped up later. He obviously had the problems with the knee last year. And I'm trying to remember if he had surgery before free agency deadline, if there was a cleanup. I think he may have. I don't remember for sure. But he may have already had a procedure, thought it went well. But the Chiefs, they were not anticipating that he was going to need another surgery this spring. So that's part of the issue. I mean, hey, it's a good number. I mean, there's no doubt about that for Christian Fulton. I mean, it's a decent numbered contract, and why did they do it? I mean, the reason why they primarily did it is just because entering into year 4 of 3 guys that they drafted, just never giving them the consistency that they wanted. And hey, 2020 hindsight may be that maybe you should have been more cognizant of Fulton's injury history and not bet on it. Maybe that was a concern. If Fulton misses a lot of time this season or just can't find the rhythm this year and the Chiefs aren't able to get anything out of him this season, then it's going to be an absolutely fair comparison, fair criticism rather of Veach in that decision. But I know I'm not ready to make a verdict yet on it, Pano, because I haven't seen him on the field yet. So I don't know what he's going to be for this team, and I don't know how he's going to fit in. If it's just a disaster, then I think it's going to be absolutely fair to criticize Veach about why did you do this? Because you could certainly point at the record and look at it and say, hey, wait, this is a guy who hasn't been able to consistently stay healthy, has had some issues, and hey, if you were looking for consistency, this probably wasn't the guy to go get. Again, I mean, if he comes back from this and puts together a really good season, it can go a lot of different ways, Pano. So I'm not. Once again, I mean, this kind of fits in with the Joan Taylor thing. I mean, I haven't seen anything from Christian Fulton yet, so I have to give him an incomplete. There's just nothing to judge him on yet, but as far as, like I said, the surgery, my understanding is that no, I mean, the Chiefs did not think that he would have to have a second surgery. That was something that popped up during OTAs. He just had a setback that required it, so that's what's put him behind schedule. Andrew, has anyone else had a first-team rep at left tackle other than Josh Simmons? Not that I can remember seeing. There's 3 players that I can think of that I have not seen anyone other than them take a first-team rep on the offensive line, and it's Josh Simmons, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. Jaylen Moore has rotated in behind Kingsley at left guard. Jaylen Moore's mixed in, and even when Jawan was out, has been ahead of him at right tackle, or in place of him at right tackle. But I do think, you bring it up, Andrew, and I wanted to point out over on the right side with people asking about the questions about right tackle competition. Um, when Joan Taylor plays, Jaylen Moore's never taken a rep ahead of him. So that's, at this point, that's kind of where that stands. So I'm still expecting Joan Taylor to be that starter. I'm expecting Jaylen Moore to be the super sub. He is probably the first guy in if anybody struggles. And when I say anybody, I mean Kingsley. That's kind of, I think, how it's going to shake out. Maybe it could shake out that way sooner than later. Who knows? John, what is the impact of Fulton being out? When he gets back, it will be interesting to see what this defense can do. Hey, John, we're going to get into it, but to do that, let's bring in our friend. That's right, the inimitable and velvet voice, Nick Jacobs.
I don't know about all that nonsense, but I'm here. I am here.
You are here. We are so glad to have you, Nick. And
I don't know. The comments section at some point is going to tell me I seem bothered to be here. Every week, man. Never fails.
I don't get it, Nick, because you never seem bothered to me. But then again, I know who you are, so
it's a solid point, Matt.
But then again, as we have often discussed, I guess we know that everything is my fault. So if you did seem bothered to be here, it's my fault.
Well, I forgot you like to fall on the sword for everything. Something happened halfway around the world, Matt's like, it's my fault. I should have been there for them. Should have called them, let them know in advance. Something I had no idea was going to happen. That's on me.
There's if you gave me enough time, I could blame tsunamis and earthquakes on myself. So
oh boy, all right, Matt.
Nick, any thoughts that you have coming in tonight? Anything on top of your mind?
No, it's just always interesting. I'll say this is you'll know where I'm going with this rant when I go there. It's not about football specific. Well, it's part of football too. I just think it's unique what the information form has become when it comes to where Chiefs fans get their news or how they get their information and everything. Because it's just there's only a certain amount of people that are at Chiefs training camp and are physically there at the podium asking questions, and then you have people who are covering by watching live streams, but then interpret what we tweet as them being able to view practice, or occasionally if fans shoot video, that is their how they view practice, and so a lot of the stuff you get. It just becomes an echo chamber overall from either a handful of podcasts or a handful of radio shows or a handful of people in town. And it just the spider web is very interesting. And if you consume a lot of information or content related to the Chiefs, you know where each spot came from. You're like, oh, that came from that podcast. That came from that radio show. That came from that. That came from that. I wonder if they got paid for the original thought getting used at 5 other spots. So hold on. I was looking in the comment section there. Someone's asking about Aaron's asking about 10-10-10, and of course bringing in spiders to the conversation. But anyways, so yeah, no, it just I don't know, man. It's funny. You can always narrow it down to where the actual information's coming from, and then you just see in waves something you say on a radio show or on a podcast, and I'll hear it somewhere else a couple days later, or I'll see it somewhere else a couple days later. I'll get tweeted about it, or you'll get tweeted about it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, I heard this from such and such." And I'm like, yeah, because I mean, you're tweeting the person who said it a couple days ago, but all right. So I don't know. It's just fascinating what the coverage of the Chiefs has become overall, and I don't know. It's a very weird time in the world.
It is very much indeed. I can back you up on that, and had a very similar conversation about this today with a couple of our colleagues, because our good friend Jesse Newell, formerly of the Kansas City Star and now of the Athletic, he kind of enjoys doing what we did on Sunday, with our myth busting. And I don't say that just so that you'll sing the song again, but I
Mythbusters.
kind of did.
Yeah, I knew what you wanted.
But Jesse loves to find the nonsensical things that get posted on Facebook primarily, and then expose the. He's like fact checking them and doing a really, really fun job with it, because I wasn't even aware of some of the crazy stuff that people put out there, but.
Yeah.
But I have since learned that apparently Isaiah Pacheco has basically donated his entire NFL earnings 4 times to different organizations and charities, which would be great if But there's nothing wrong with Isaiah Pacheco doing what he does. But why do you have to just make up stuff and put stuff out there? And that's not even the. I mean, I wouldn't say that's the worst of it, but it's not even the half of it. It's just. I don't know. I'm still bitter, Nick, about the clown account that put out there the fake quote about Patrick Mahomes talking about he doesn't celebrate the 4th of July. He only celebrates in February, and showing a video of him reporting to camp 2 weeks early, which was video from last year reporting to camp. And I knew that it was fake because I was in the background of the video and I was not in St. Joe that day. So
yeah, I remember that one grinded your gears that day.
That did grind my gears that day. That really set me off.
But anyways, back on
All
track.
right, let's get back on track, and let's start with John, because I've been talking about this a little bit, but I want to get your take, if you don't mind. Fulton being out, when he gets back, it'll be interesting what the defense can do. But what is the impact of Fulton missing all of this time?
I mean, he's not able to get the communication with the safeties. He's not able to kind of be able to communicate with McDuffie or Watson or whoever may be out there and kind of just get into a rhythm with them to where when they see this look, all right, hey, what hand signal do we do here? When we do this, what do we do there? Do I drop back into the zone at this depth? And if this route does this, with pattern matching, do I do that? And just have that muscle memory and repetition of being able to do that with reps on end. So that's kind of the biggest thing that he's personally missing right now. But from a Chiefs perspective, like, they're not going to rush him out there because they want him for the second half of the season when they know they're going to need him more than anything else. And that goes for any guy. So if they've got a starter, or they got one of the top 45 guys that are going to be key contributors to them trying to get back to the Super Bowl and get to an AFC championship and win the AFC West and do all those things that they like to do, they're going to be cautious with them if they need to be, so that they have them from that week 8 on stretch more than anything else. So that's why whenever Hollywood Brown's not out there right now, they're going to do everything they have to for him to be back to 100%. Fulton, they're going to let him be everything he needs to be 100%. Last year, people were freaking out because Chris Jones didn't play a lot in the preseason. And then, Charles Omenihu coming back from the knee injury. He didn't play, didn't do most of preseason last year. So, I mean, there's always a handful of guys that aren't in a lot of the preseason, and the Chiefs just like to be cautious about it.
Yeah, this is not on Fulton specifically, but
and just so you know, Luttrell's already reminded me about Steven Demon's question. And that's why I'm late to the thing, because you made promises to people, and I had to go look up the answers that now people expect because Matt promised wrote a check that I was going to have to cash.
I didn't mean to. I mean, Steven Demon's question was specifically for you, Nick.
If it's the one I think it is, I'm not 100% sure. It
might be Round Rock's question that is the one that you had to go research that you're going to be mad at me about. But let's go to Steven Demon first.
No, yeah, Steven Demon's is different. Yeah, that's a whole different ball game than the.
Steven Demon, nice enough with the super chat, but it was specifically for you, so I wanted to wait. And you do a great recitation on this. So, Nick, you mentioned a 1 tech, 3 tech, 5 tech, 7 tech yesterday. Can you please explain how that correlates? Right, left tackle, inside linebacker, and outside linebacker. How defense line works?
I can tell you on the tech parts, the linebacker part, that's a little different based on what the formation's going to be. Where the tight end, if they have a fullback, all that type of stuff, and like what they've got wide receiver alignment wise, they have a bunch formation, they have all that stuff that changes a whole bunch of things too. But all right, so we'll start with 1, 3, 5, 7 tech. The 1 tech is the inside shoulder of the guard on either side. So inside shoulder of the guard is where that 1 tech is. A 1 tech is supposed to be a space eater. They're ideally supposed to take up double teams, and they need to be strong, and they need to be able to stay in a spot and take on a double. So a linebacker like Nick Bolton can run free and can shuffle down the line and be able to make the tackle. In the past, the person who used to have to do that when the Chiefs were in a 34 front with Bob Sutton was Dontari Poe, but he was in a zero tech lined up directly over the center. But what was tough for Dontari Poe is he never knew which guard was going to help double team him. So he may get hit from the left side, he may get hit from the right side, but he was always going to take that wear and tear, and he had to keep the line both inside. In an ideal world, keep both inside linebackers clean by taking up the center and the guard. But Dontari Poe was so freakishly athletic that he could not only take on the double, he could split a double and still disrupt the backfield. That's what made him such a unique athlete for as long as it did. But the wear and tear of that over time is what screwed up his back and pretty much ended, after he left Kansas City, his career was never the same. And because, his back had gotten hit so many times, thousands and thousands and thousands of snaps, 5,000 to 6,000 snaps of just getting hit different ways and having your back bend this way and that way. And then he had to have the back surgery. And once he had the back surgery, when an offense or defensive lineman has back surgery, that's kind of the beginning of the end. And that's just something to remember. Like, it's not guaranteed it'll be within a certain amount of time, but that's when guys start having back problems. And you see it on a regular basis. Happened to Willie Rofe, happened to Kyle Turley, happened to Dontari Poe. All those guys. And that's being an offense or defensive lineman, just how much your back is a part of how you stop such powerful rushers or how you drive such powerful defenders and things of that nature. That's what can cause a bunch of wear and tear. So we've established 0 and 1 tech. 1 tech, if you're wanting to think in the Chiefs system, that is Mike Pennell right now. And behind him is Omar Norman Lott. So those guys, if you can get a pass rush out of them and they can be disruptive, that is icing on the cake. But at minimum, they have to be able to take on a double and stop the run. Do not let the guard get to or center, how they do their combo block based on the run. You cannot let them get to the second level. You have failed as a 1 tech if you let them get to the second level on the linebacker. 3 tech is Chris Jones. Chris Jones, you're on the outside shoulder of the guard. You are there to split the gap between the tackle and the guard if you can. They are quick, penetrating, fast, good pass rusher if they can be. And if they're good against the run too, that's just icing on the cake. They can be solid against the run, but a very disruptive pass rusher. Your 3 tech is one of your biggest priorities from a pass rushing perspective if you are trying to routinely get a pass rush. And Chris Jones is so dominant. Aaron Donald was similar in that regard. Those are like true dominant 3 techs that just they had speed, they had power, they could rush, they could do against the run, they were gold. 5 tech is outside shoulder of the tackle. They are opposite away from the tight end typically. And then a 7 tech is on the inside shoulder of the tight end. So and a wide 9 is basically they would be the outside shoulder of a tight end. So if you think about it, the numbering system is basically it's based on a person's shoulder, an offensive lineman's shoulder. 1 outside or 1, is on the inside shoulder, 3 is on the outside shoulder, and the further you work out is the odd numbers. And then there's even. But if they're even, then that means you're head up on those people. So if they're a 0 tech, then they're head up on the center. If they're a 2 tech, then they're head up on, or 2I, as some people like to call it, then they're head up on the guard. And then, you just work your way out from there.
And funny you should mention this, and this question come up today because there was a specific snap, and odd since I talk about that sometimes my observations in the trenches are not the most observant and deepest. But Blair Kirchhoff and I both noticed at the exact same time that Mike Dana was lined up as a 0 tech against Creed Humphrey on a snap today. Yikes. And Nick, would you like to know how that went for Mike?
He is really strong, but even going against somebody like Creed, if he doesn't get his hands in quick enough, for people that don't know, Creed has one of the strongest grips on the team, and in all honesty, in the NFL. And a lot of that is from his wrestling background. Guys who are wrestlers have really strong grips, and they just don't let go of people. So if Mike was able to shoot his hands quick enough, he may have been able to push him back a couple steps. But if Creed got a proper wax off swipe in, he was going to be able to grab a hold of his shoulder pads, and he was going to steer him wherever he felt like he was doing a driver's test.
You nailed it. I thought Mike did about as well as he could possibly do, and all that could happen was that he got squared up. I mean, Creed just did not let him get out of his grasp whatsoever, left to right. Just kept him completely squared up. The only thing that Mike could do was, it looked like he might have pushed him back a step or two. But hey, to Mike's credit, didn't get pancaked or anything like that. But yeah, no, I mean, if you're lined up at a 0 on Creed Humphrey, may God have mercy on your soul. That's all I'm saying. Thank you for doing that, Nick. I appreciate that, because you do teach that extremely well.
Well, I was taught well by a coach named Jason Fowler and Ken Clements.
Well, there you go. Round Rock had the question that I think you probably went to the archives for research on.
Yeah, well, I didn't go to the archives. I had to go to TV guides and find the zip codes for different cities to be able to answer it. Yeah. So here in Kansas City, the game will be on my station, KSHB 41. If you currently get it in the Kansas City market, the game will be there. You do not have to pay for it. It is over the air. It'll be on YouTube TV, and I think Hulu TV is too, because I think those are our primary streamers. It'll be on those. 100%. The Chiefs game will be on those. Now, if you're talking from a streaming perspective, and whether you're in Kansas City or outside of Kansas City, that is at the discretion of the NFL. The Chiefs have an app, but I think it's more local. It's just within a certain local radius in the past, I believe. But NFL Plus, for the most part, they play all preseason games, and they have all those. So with it being outside of a certain radius, for people that are typically asking, NFL Plus would probably be the best bet for a lot of those. Now, for people in other markets, I went and looked these up. In Wichita, it'll be on K-Witch. In Omaha, Nebraska, it'll be on KMTV. In St. Louis, it'll be on KMOV. And in Des Moines, Iowa, it'll be on KDSM, according to the TVGuide.com, when I went to go look at those. If you're in those markets, those will be the channels they will be on.
There you go. So hopefully, Round Rock, that helps out.
Now, I just realized I didn't look up Springfield, so somebody's going to ask me about Springfield.
Well, I had it in the back of my mind, Nick, because it's my hometown, but I will
look that up while you find your next question. All because Matt's like, oh, Nick will be able to answer this.
Well,
so for people that don't know, we have the over-the-air rights. NFL controls all streaming. That's NFL's ball game. That's their thing. So Sunday Night Football, that's on Peacock, because NBC has a deal with NFL on that. And then the CBS, when the CBS has the games, they have Paramount Plus for streaming, and they got that partnership with the NFL on that. So in terms of the overall networks, they have a deal with the NFL for streaming rights from a local affiliate level. That's different.
And I'm trying to look up.
And the NFL Network, they sent out a press release this morning, and it won't be on until later. I believe it's on a tape delay from what NFL press release sent out. I'll go look up that press release right now while I remember.
I knew none of the Chiefs games were scheduled to be live on NFL Network, and all the preseason games.
I only know about this. I only know about this week. Let's see. So the Chiefs game technically will be at 2 a.m. Sunday for anybody that wants to DV it hard on NFL Network, which was just unofficially purchased by ESPN, along with other NFL media entities, and they need approval from the owners and a bigger approval by the government, and then NFL Network will be owned by ESPN if that happens.
The worldwide leader. There you go. And if you really want to be able to get the preseason games, NFL Plus is available $6.99 a month. So if you're outside Kansas City and you want to be able to stream those games live, Preseason games are available on NFL Plus. It's $6.99 for 1 month if you want to do that. And if you want to be able to get the games that belong to KSHB, the Chiefs Television Network does a great job. So I can't say that that's not a bad investment. So if you love your Chiefs, not a bad investment at all for 1 month. Sean heard an analyst say Josh Simmons is better than Joe Alt. Alt was just more consistent. Thoughts? I mean, we're both Joe Alt fans, but I'll let you go first.
I'm still going through the TV guide.
Okay, then while Nick's going through TV guide, when I saw this question, Sean, here's my first thought, and I see the question was a little bit more nuanced than I was just even going into. It's probably fair. I mean, I can't necessarily disagree. I mean, I even think that just based on their college tape, that Joe Alt was more experienced at a higher level. I mean, Simmons, hey, he had the time at Ohio State, but a lot of his time was at a lower conference level. He jumped a lot when he got to Ohio State. So I think that, yeah, I mean, Alt was consistent at a higher level for a longer period of time. And here's one of my only breaks that I'm going to go on with Josh and Simmons now, because I mean, my concern all along was only about the health, but he has been playing great and has looked great. When I see opinions about Josh Simmons next, I kind of do want to see them from people outside of Kansas City, because everybody that I've talked to and heard from inside Kansas City, Nick, is just absolutely in love with Josh Simmons. I want to see what happens when he's, when he goes national, when you start seeing the preseason game and that starts getting out. I want to see what other people around the league think about Josh Simmons and if the reviews are the same.
All right. So in Joplin, Missouri, the game will be on KODE. So in Joplin, the game will be on KODE. All right. Joe Alt question now. Heard analysts say Josh Simmons is better than Joe Alt. All right, they're two different players. Let's just stop right there. I know it's been brought up that Joe Alt struggled at right tackle last year for the Chargers, and people have somehow thought that correlates into him not being as dominant as some thought he would be, including myself. Now, here's where I'm going to remind them to punch the brakes. Joe Alt played left tackle at Notre Dame. It was like his dad. Played left tackle. It takes time to learn how to do something completely opposite of what you've done in your life. Whether it's habits that you have, whether, from eating, how you sleep, how you work out, anything of that nature, or how how you try to eat with your, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, or if you're used to when you use a stair and you use your right foot to step down first, and now you're having to use your left foot. Stuff like that, like it's just different. It takes time. You have to adapt to stuff. So, I mean, when Joe Alt got put over at the right tackle spot, that was going to take time for him to get used to that. I think he probably would have done a little bit better at left tackle than he did at right tackle for the Chargers, because it would have been a little bit more natural for him. But coming out of college, he was a ready-made offensive lineman that needed minimal technique work because of how much his dad taught him about the NFL game and how proper he was. He was set it and forget it, as you would call it, if he got to play left tackle. So with Josh Simmons, right now for Josh, part of the problem he has from time to time is he'll catch a defender at times. So right now the Chiefs are having to break that habit to get him confident in his punch. When he punches, the exact target he punches at, where exactly he punches at. Guy's got a great anchor. He's got athletic feet. He can move quickly. He's got all that. It's just for guys, it's just a matter of getting them ready to anticipate some things and know how a defensive end may be setting them up at times. Just like the other day when Ashton Gelati was trying to take him wide and got him, and once he got him committed a certain way, boom, spin moved on him. And had, and then was able to beat his inside shoulder. So all that stuff combined, what I'm getting at here is Josh, is he going to be better than what the Chiefs have had at left tackle for a while? We all hope so. We'll find out. We do not know. Preseason game will help answer some of those questions. All three of those preseason games will help answer those questions. Then the regular season is going to show even more. But I don't think anybody 100% definitively knows how he is going to do, including the Chiefs coaching staff. That is just what happens when you get to see the game in person. So everything has levels. When we talk about until the pads come on, that's your first level. Then you get into training camp. That gives you a little bit of answers there. Then you get into preseason, gives you a little bit more answers. Then you get into regular season, gives you a ton of answers. Then when they get in the playoffs, gets a little bit more at that point. Then when you go into year 2, the question is, can they duplicate or get better? Then you find out and start that process all over again. So one thing I can say, no matter who the heck the football player is, the thing I want to tell people is, the thing you need to remember is nobody stays the same. You either get a little bit better, a lot better, or you get worse. So, and that could be week by week. That could be injury by injury. It all just depends.
It's the big circle of life. So there you go. Brother Rick, in your opinion, how many rookies cracked the starting lineup? I am thinking to myself, maybe, I mean, am I going to be wrong with just one?
I mean, if you're starting the season, then, I mean, most people are expecting Josh Simmons.
I mean, that would be the one.
I mean, the question just says how many cracked the starting lineup. So I don't know. I mean, Brother Rick could be talking in general, could be talking just week 1. If you want to go by week 1, it's probably going to be Josh Simmons. If you want to go collectively throughout the season, just depends on how many injuries there are.
Yeah, if you're just talking about week 1, I mean, I think Josh Simmons is the only one. I mean, could Omar Norman Lott get a random start in week 1? Possibly. I mean, that would probably be my next yes on the list. I think that would probably be about it to me. I mean, Ashton Gelati won't. I mean, that's not a knock on Gelati. It's just that there's other guys in front of him that will get to start. Yeah, I think that would probably be it for me, Brother Rick. I think Josh Simmons will be it. I will go ahead and post Gary's very kind message to everyone to subscribe and like the channel. That is always appreciated. Thank you, Gary, for making the announcement that I'm too modest to make sometimes. Nick, I've answered this a little bit, so I will defer to you on this one from Dan. Thoughts on Tyquan Thornton?
I mean, the way things are going right now, I think he's potentially going to be the 6th receiver. We'll see how the next 3 games go. And if he's able to continue to stack days and build days together, he's got the speed that they want at receiver and need at receiver. So, I mean, it's just a matter of being consistent catching the football. Because, I mean, there's been times where he's had drops. There's been times where he may struggle to track a football from time to time. But overall, he has the speed that I think they like and they're pretty enamored with. And, you know, we'll see what he can do as a returner and if he's able to flash. So, I mean, preseason games are our next journey to find out what these guys can do when the lights come on. So now we've gone from when the pads come on to when the lights come on.
Oh, do you want to keep the good vibes going, Nick, or do you want to take a yes or no question about Andy Heck?
You can do whatever you want. I already pretty much know who probably asked the Andy Heck question because they ask it every single week, but we'll find out.
You know
find
what?
out if I'm wrong.
You know what? I'm going to go to your next question, Brian, later on because I'm still mad at you about, doubting Chris Oladokin. So, Alicia, a couple of questions. How is Jared Wiley doing? 2, curious about Carson Wentz. He went from Andy saying he could be a starter in the league to no one even wanting him as a backup.
You going to go first or you want me to go first?
I'll let you go first, Nick.
I mean, today was Wiley's first day back in a while?
I think he came back over the weekend, but yeah, he's still working his way back.
Okay. So, I mean, with Jared Wiley, I mean, we'll see in the weeks ahead if he can stay on the football field and go from there. I think he's probably still trying to get comfortable coming back from the knee injury. And I mean, with Carson Wentz, like I say with every quarterback's got a certain rhythm. They have a certain style that they're comfortable with where they bring out the best in their mechanics based on what type of play calling you do. It's an offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, and offensive coordinator's job to find out what those route combinations are or what the style is for the quarterback to succeed. For somebody like Carson Wentz, he succeeded he was at his best and his most accurate and on point when he was doing play action pass out of whatever it was. So if he was at a shotgun and did a play action fake with the running back, then he was normally in rhythm, normally threw the ball in the right spot, led the receiver, was able to kind of put it where he needed to. If he was just catching the shotgun and then just throwing it, it wasn't always the most accurate. Might have been behind, might have been high, might have been a little bit low of the wide receiver's feet. It just wasn't always going to be the best throw. And when he went on the run, it was going to be 50-50. It depended if it was kind of a play action rollout, and he'd have a little bit better success. But for quarterback, there's certain quarterbacks that need play action just from a timing perspective to feel normal and to feel confident. Then there's other quarterbacks that just want to be in shotgun and throw the ball out of it. And then there's other quarterbacks that want to be under center, have their back turned so that they, and maybe play action out of that, or however they want to go about it. And then they can, decipher the defense from there. And maybe they like to just have to read it quickly and then make their throw. So all quarterbacks can be different. And there's certain things, maybe there's certain throws a quarterback needs. Maybe a quarterback, hey, I need a screen pass in the first 5 plays. Hey, I need this slant out route combination a couple times so that I can be confident in the timing. Or, hey, I think this defense is going to do this in the first 3 plays. I would like to run this route combination to kind of read off of it. So the whole point of it is to build the confidence of the quarterback with what's going to get them into rhythm. So that's all offense is just trying to get a quarterback into rhythm and then going from there.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say what Alicia, your second part of your question about Carson Wentz also kind of resonated with me was, we had a question a couple of weeks ago, Nick, about how do you kind of know when players or what they really think of their coaches and whether they're really telling the truth. And I mean, Andy Reid's just going to say nice things about his quarterback. I mean, he's not going to throw his guys under the bus. So I think Andy Reid was just kind of being nice to Carson Wentz, but that's. But Jared Wiley, he, all fairness to him, he looks a lot to me like a guy coming back from an ACL injury. He's just a little slow, not as quick as he was last year. He'll get that behind him. And again, it's usually easier for skilled players to get past that than it is for the power guys and the big guys in the middle. That's, was one of the reasons why I would continue to be impressed by Josh Simmons, because the big guys usually need much more time to be able to come back from bad knee injuries. And so, hey, can Jared Wiley fight through it this year? Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility, but we also know that, a lot of times players are better in their second year back from the ACL. It's just usually a little bit better and easier for skilled players. So I'm not, I think that's my kind of, but I'll be honest here. And this is my stumbling around to the answer. I still think at this point, I mean, I know, Nick, you think I'm crazy. I think Tanyan's had a better camp than Jared Wiley has, but your mileage may vary.
Jared Wiley's coming off a knee injury. I'd hope he'd have a better camp.
Brian wants to know, what are the odds of the Chiefs starting the season 1-3?
Heck if I know, man. I don't know, guys. I know you want to gamble. I get it. Go ahead and gamble. Feel free. But I mean, I don't have that in my season prediction. If that's what we're asking. So I mean, do I think the Chargers and them will have a competitive game? I sure do. But I mean, what this football team's going to be, where they're going to be at from a play calling perspective, that's what they're going to be setting tempo wise in the first 4 weeks. And the kicker of it is, with the way the Chiefs practice and some of the heat that they got to go against early on, that's a positive. So for them to be able to deal with some of that 90-degree, 100-degree heat that they or feels like heat on the field, the humidity that they went against on some of those practices, that was good. That was good training for them so that they could, be able to kind of withstand some things there in the first 4 weeks of the season to kind of establish themselves. Because every NFL, most teams don't know who they are till week 8. That's the reality. That's what I've said for years on podcasts, is that week 8 is when you start to know who the heck a team is. So once coaches start getting into rhythm between week 6 to 8, that's whenever teams can start kind of becoming who they are. And then if they have a bye week, then they start changing it up after that. And so teams can't get a beat on what they're doing. So, and that front, I'm going to pull up the Chiefs right now real quick. Yeah, so I mean, look, I think they're beating the Chargers. I think the Eagles. I think she's going to be a little bit more motivated than the Eagles because I think the Chiefs are going to want to show that they're better than what they showcased in the Super Bowl, and I just think they're going to be a little bit hungrier than the Eagles will that week and a little bit more motivated. Whether they say it or not, they're going to say it's just another game because that's what they got to say. But their play on the field will probably tell us all something different. So at that point, hypothetically, they're 2-0, and then the Giants. I'm sorry, but I don't think they're going to have a problem with the Giants. So at that point, you're 3-0. But Ravens is that'll be a tough game. It'll be a tough game, but they'll have 3 weeks of tape on what the Ravens can and can't do. Like the Eagles game. I know it sounds weird, but that Chiefs Eagles game in week 2, like that's the really intriguing one because the league is watching. The league will be watching that game. Everybody in the NFL at one point or another may not be watching it live because they got their own real world stuff going on. But everybody that's going to play the Chiefs or might play the Chiefs is going to watch that game at some point after the game is completed that week because they're going to see, did the Chiefs have answers to what Vic Fangio threw them in the Super Bowl? Do they have answers? Because if they do, then teams are like, all right, we can try some of that during our week, but we have to go back to the drawing board here a little bit. But that's a week right now that I'm just telling you, like the Chiefs got to show that they have answers for what Vic Fangio threw at them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I agree with everything. I did, Brian, just for you, I applied my C that I acquired in Stat 31 at the University of Missouri to come up with a scientific answer to your question. I'm going to go with 11% chance that the Chiefs start the season 1-3. Just based on what I think is the percentage that they could lose to the 3 teams that they could lose to. I mean, I think they're most likely of all those games to win the Giants game. They're the better team than the Giants, even though the Chiefs always seem to play terrible in New York, and I'm not quite sure why, but maybe it's the distractions. Who knows? But Jets are always terrible, so not everybody else in the league gets distracted by those 2 teams. But yeah, I mean, hey, what are they going to be? I mean, I would imagine that the Ravens game is going to be a 50-50 game. I haven't looked at the odds yet for the Chargers game, but I'm imagining that that's probably going to be a 50-50 game, if for no other reason than the Chiefs are the road team. And once people find out about that 2-hour bus ride to the stadium, that not going to be a favorite for the Chiefs are going to win. And the Eagles, I'm with you, Nick. I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to win that game. I would imagine that they're probably not going to be. They might not be the favorite in that game, though. I mean, I can imagine that the odds makers may still think that the Eagles are going to have their number, but just based on some rough estimates, like I said, I got a C in Stat 31, Brian. So I don't think you want to be taking me to the house on whatever. But I do know that I think, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, if you're gambling, you'd want to have at least 9-1 odds in your favor. So if you're getting at least 9-1 odds on a 1-3 start. But you know what? I don't know anything about what I just said. So, oh, Trey, is it more likely Rashee Rice gets suspended before week 1 or sometime during the season? What's your prediction, Nick? Do you have one?
As it was last week, absolutely no idea. Your guess is as good as mine.
I mean, technically, that is the correct answer because it is the NFL, and we do not know what the NFL is going to do at any particular moment in time.
Trey, you can guess right now. You will be just as accurate as I would be. I mean, the fact that Jordan Addison's came out today is interesting, but I mean, I would assume something's going to be closer if Jordan Addison's was out today, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about this before. I mean, typically it comes down 60 to 90 days. This is supposedly going to be an expedited process that doesn't include what would happen if Rashee or the NFLPA decides to appeal whatever suspension is handed down. So there's a lot of factors that can go into it. But bottom line, what the NFL is going to do, what the NFL is going to do, and nobody knows what they're going to do. Ron, which 3 NFL franchises do you think could throw the bag at Isaiah Pacheco next year? I just don't see Veach doing it, bringing him back to KC, unless it's not a big money and a lesser role. That's a tough one. I mean, I don't know, Nick. I don't know if I could really intelligently tell you the three teams that might be interested in Pacheco next offseason if he becomes a free agent.
I don't know about quote unquote throwing the bag, but teams that I think he's a good fit for would be the Baltimore Ravens, potentially Buffalo because of that offensive line, especially if they need to replace Cook. But I mean, the Bills have kind of added some people. We'll see. Maybe the Steelers, depending on what happens coaching staff wise after this year, if Tomlin's still around or not. That's a possibility. I could see Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots being a spot of interest there. We'll see if the Titans would potentially be one of those teams with Mike Bergonzi down there. On the NFC side of the ball, I don't know if I see a power run team. NFC wise, I'm not 100% sure if there's a team out there that would run the style that I think Pacheco would be effective with. So yeah, I think I named all the teams I can think of offhand.
It's a really good answer because I agree with you as far as power run teams. That would be the place to go. So you gave a much more intelligent answer than I would have, Nick. That's for sure. And I mean, I can't rule out the Chiefs bringing him back because again, I mean, if it's an affordable deal, if there's not a bunch of interest in Isaiah, and Isaiah, I would think there's a reasonable chance would fit into the category of free agents in that I could see the Chiefs saying, Isaiah, go get a deal and bring it back to us, and we'll see if we can work something out. Maybe they'd be proactive and try and get something done, but I think that's probably kind of the area that he would work in.
Were you at 731?
We're moving along, Nick. We're moving along.
It's 847, man.
There was a lot of questions, man.
Were there?
There were. I'll add them up later. There were a lot of questions. And we're gonna get to go through three of them at once because
I love how you talked a big game about how you're gonna be speedy and everything when the show started.
You're assuming it's all my fault.
Oh, I love that, man.
Okay, we got three questions in a row, all on the same topic from three different people. I don't know if this was conspiracy or you all saw your questions and started going off on it, but we're gonna go through them all at once here, Nick. Finely tuned. What would it cost to cut trade Felix Anudike Uzomah? What number is he wearing, or is he in witness relocation protection? Aaron, any word on FAU? How has his camp been? And Red Hood Chief, the depth chart truly reflective of where FAU stands. Haven't heard anything about him. So I guess the easiest question to answer, he's wearing number 91 now. Mm-hmm. He switched from 97, so that's the easiest one. I was starting to look up his contract info. So if you've looked it up before I have, Nick, after I just spilled my glass of tea on myself. And my phone and my keyboard. But you know what? We're going to persevere. So
do you need to clean that up there real quick?
No, but it's, I'll tell you what, it's really, really cold on my leg. So
well, I didn't know if your phone or keyboard.
A little worried about the phone, but you know what? And the keyboard. Yeah, but you know what? We're going to persevere. We're going to power on.
Okay. So from a trade perspective with the post June 1 over the cap predicts that the Chiefs would have about 1.398 in dead money, and from a cap saving, they would get 1.8 million back by trading him after June 1st. So to answer that question, from a potential trade perspective, that's what that would be. From if they just outright cut him, which I don't think they will do, the Chiefs would end up losing 2.3 million in cap space. So they will not be doing that because they need that cap space. So I don't think that that's happening. And next year, if they released him, they would get zero back in cap savings. So that should answer that part of it. Now, people asking, how has his camp been so far? He has definitely been out on the football field. He's definitely been out there on the football field. I have seen number 91 on the football field, and he has been out there.
He has been out there on the football field. Yeah, I mean, his rookie contract is completely guaranteed. So you're going to absorb all that cap hit at some point. So yeah, you're not getting away from any of it. So it's going to hit your cap eventually, one way or the other. As for how his camp has been, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much. And the depth chart, yeah, I mean, he's running with the threes. I mean, he's been on the third team. I mean, he occasionally, does get to rotate in some different positions, but he's consistently been a third team guy. And so, yeah, I mean, there's 4 players in front of him getting consistent reps, and that makes sense because it's George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, Ashton Gelati, and Charles Minihue, and he would be on the third team with Malik Herring. I mean, that's pretty accurate. So I can't add any more, Nick. I mean, that pretty much sums it up. And you're dead right. He has been in attendance at all of the practices.
You like how mine was concise, Matt?
Wow.
Like you claimed you were going to be tonight. Ah!
It was concise. Mark, Chiefs and Cardinals are set to replay on NFL at 2 a.m. That's not a question mark, but I appreciate you for sharing that info. So that had I seen it earlier, I could have shared it before even Nick got here. But yes, Andrew.
I can't wait till you get to the 851 comments and questions.
Oh dear. That's some very specific ones, or just because it's 8:51?
No, I just looked at the time.
Hey, yes, I would have Nico Remigio making this team over Sky Moore, but I'm not Brett Veach, I suppose.
Dang, Nikki said Matt gets paid by the word. Ruthless. Roadless.
I wish. I get paid by the click, so. Chiefs fan 1587. Do you think 10 offensive linemen on the 53? If so, how many offensive tackles? So,
in terms of offensive linemen, I think are going to be on there. Josh Simmons, Kingsley Suamataia, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Joan Taylor, Jaylen Moore, Hunter Norzad. Where are we at right now?
7, I believe.
Okay, then Caliendo is probably going to be on there too.
There you go.
And then right now, 9 and 10 are up for grabs. Start proving it in the preseason.
Completely agree on the top 8. I'm assuming the 9th will probably be another tackle. I'd probably have Wanye in the lead at this point, but I think it is up for grabs. Your mileage may vary.
So,
Pano, Nick, would you consider bringing back Tyreek? What would you offer the Fins?
I would offer the Fins absolutely nothing.
It's exactly the answer I was expecting. That's what I would offer too.
Yeah, you offer them absolutely nothing.
And stand by that.
Offer them absolutely nothing.
Offer to you is $0.
$0. No. 0 draft picks, 0.
Yeah. Just would not work for so many different reasons. Financially being the number one reason. Yes, I sneezed all over the camera earlier. Nick wasn't here for that.
2. Financially is number 2 for me.
Oh man, Brian wanted to bring back Tyreek too. There's never enough money for Tyreek, I don't think. But
there's never enough anything for Tyreek.
Chiefs fan 1587 again. Do you think Veach claims anyone off the waiver wire after the 53 cut downs?
I think most of anybody he would want to claim will already be claimed at that point, so he's gonna have to trade in advance if he wants to do it.
That would be the trick, is that yes. I mean, Chiefs have had some claims. They had one last year, I guess, but it's difficult being at number 31 on the waiver wire. So
got me for 6 more minutes, Matt.
Transview, how has Jaden Hicks looked?
He's been out there playing safety. I mean, he can cover. He's kind of worked between 1s and 2s and everything, and some sub packages and move him around and everything. I think he's going to be one of their better safeties long term. But right now, there's stuff that they're clearly wanting to work with him on.
Apparently, because I've been really surprised that he has not moved up and just become a starter yet. Maybe it still happened, but also, I mean, Jaden Hicks. It's got to be hard for Jaden Hicks to be in training camp, because he doesn't want to be playing the way he has to play in training camp. He wants to tackle to the ground and just destroy people. So he's got to just be restraining himself at all times.
Yeah, he's doing a good job.
Red Hood Chief, is Wanye Morris making this roster?
Based on my previous answer, preseason will decide.
Preseason
And it's
will
not a
decide.
knock on Red. That's not a knock on Red Hood. It's just that he's been waiting to hear this answer for over an hour now, and Matt just finally got to it.
And I know. When you say it that way, you make I feel like the worst.
In all fairness, you were going to feel like the worst no matter if I said anything or not, because you want to fall on every sword that's out there possible. But blame yourself. It's just a passion project of yours.
I guess it is. Jackson, you mentioned this earlier, Nick. Does the Jordan Addison news say anything about Rice's case?
Already answered. And that's not on Jackson either. I want to emphasize
you just
not on
mentioned
Jackson.
it. I didn't know if you had, I didn't think you specifically said what you thought, but I know that Jordan Addison got his suspension today. I don't remember the timeline as far as when all that, but those suspensions for PEDs are also a little bit different too. So, who is from Albert? Who is most likely to get traded, Sky, Wanye, or Joshua Williams?
Yes.
So Nick's just ready to trade all of them equally.
I don't think a team is going to offer anything for Sky, but I think Wanye or Josh, you could definitely throw that out there and potentially see if a team would be interested.
Did Florio really say a 10-game suspension for Rasheed?
I don't know, Matt. I don't know.
Don't
care.
I've consistently said, I mean, my range is 2 to 6. I mean, but it's like we talked about earlier, Nick, it's a complete stab in the dark because we don't know what Roger Goodell's going to do.
We'll find out.
Alex, you take the 2011 Chiefs roster and replace Matt Castle with Patrick Mahomes. Does he win the Super Bowl?
That's still when Todd Haley was there.
Yeah, I guess that would be the question. Is Todd Haley still the coach?
Todd Haley had a lot of problems back then.
Yeah, because that's kind of the deal breaker for me is.
I mean, Todd got fired that year, but I mean that team has already had a lot of culture issues at that point. That there was a lot that was going to be rebuilt there that took Andy Reid a little bit to tear apart, and him and John Dorsey got rebuilt over time. So I'm just telling you like that. There's a reason they went 2-14 in 2012.
Not that there wasn't talent on that team, but
now,
if Todd Haley
if you took Patrick Mahomes and put him on like the 2015 Chiefs, then like 2015 Chiefs is winning the Super Bowl. They're beating the Broncos. They're beating the Patriots. They already decisively beat the Texans with Alex Smith. Then they would have. I think Mahomes would have gone on there, beat the Patriots, or made it a close ball game. Then they go to Denver, play Denver, and then they beat Denver, and then they win the Super Bowl instead of Peyton Manning. But
I feel like we're kind of even getting into like super fans questions here. Like, okay, if you took 5 miniature Mahomes and put them on the 2014 Chiefs.
I don't know, Matt. You got 2 minutes left now. I go bye-bye in the car.
You're going bye-bye in the car? Where are you going? Oh,
what are you, my parole officer? Get out of here. I don't know if you know this, but I got to wake up at 6 a.m. So things got to get done. I don't know.
I'm not waking up that early. Well, I may have to wake up that early.
Yeah, you might want to wake up that early if you're trying to do this noble venture of beating.
Oh no, I got my win against Harrison, and I'm packing that one in. So.
Oh, just one? Okay, just stop at one. That's cool.
Stopping at one.
I'm so glad Patrick Mahomes didn't stop at one Super Bowl.
It's not a Super Bowl. It's just me just seeing who shows up to work first.
1 minute, Matt.
Okay, you want to tell folks what spiders are?
No.
We'll talk about teams being in shells and spiders.
Go for it, Matt. You go for it.
I was gonna let you because you're more the expert than I am here.
I don't. No, thank you.
no, thank you.
I have no interest.
I mean, it's basically like just shoulder pads and body pad. I mean, like pads. It's not like real pads.
Yep.
How was that for an explanation for you?
Sounds good, Matt.
See, this is from growing up in the 80s when there was no such thing. You either had pads or no pads. All right, one more question for Nick.
Nope.
No. Man, okay, Aaron, I'm going to answer yours after. I just want Nick's last one to be a good one. Man, all the pressure.
Oh, sorry, Matt. We've hit 9:01 time. I apologize to people that I've run out of time. You can send your complaints to Matt Derrick at Chiefs Digest, and I apologize to Matt Damon who ran out of time. So,
well, okay, this was specifically for you. Luttrell wants to know, Nick, can you leave a key under your doormat for people outside the market? If yes, I also have a shopping list of things you could pick up at your local Hy-Vee.
And with that, I bid you adieu.
Thanks, Nick. You're the best. All right, sorry everyone. I hope I didn't waste Nick's time too much. We do have some questions, so I'm going to try and go through them quickly. I'm sorry, I should have managed my time. I tried to manage my time better tonight, and so I hope. Apologize to you all once again who've waited so long for your answers. I will try to give you some good answers. Might be kind of quick, but I think. Trying to see where we left off after Luttrell's, not after Luttrell's question, but after Aaron's questions about the shells and spiders. Yeah, I mean, Aaron, shells and spiders are basically it's light shoulder pads, and then players wear like body pads. I don't know what they're actually technically called. Like I said, I mean, back when I played football, we didn't have shells and spiders. We just had pads. So. But they're very basically just very lightweight pads. I mean, it's more than just going out there with a helmet, which, I mean, it's a little bit more, but it's not designed for contact or anything like that. It's basically like padded shirts. I mean, more or less than anything else. I know this was Sparkle. This was specifically for Nick. Have the Chiefs got CRW so far down the corner safety pecking order on their recent teams list? Why have the Chiefs? I mean, here's a little bit of acknowledging that it's an unofficial depth chart. And sometimes, I mean, I probably somebody listening to this who helped put together the roster, and that's why the depth chart. And I got to say, this is honestly one of the best depth charts from the Chiefs that would reflective of what I've seen at training camp that's in my 10 seasons now on the beat. So everybody who put this together, great. And CRW is a really tricky one to figure out right now. And I think that it's even because his workload has changed even a little bit since the unofficial depth chart came out the other day. I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding amongst everybody about what he is right now because he is working so much with the safeties. I'm not sure how many people have really noticed that. And like I said, he seems to be kind of working in a Chamari Connor backup role. So I think that explains a lot of it because it doesn't necessarily look like he's getting a lot of looks at corner because he's getting some looks at safety. And I think that's just kind of confusing the issue a little bit. So that's kind of my take on it. Aaron, Matt, 17 of the Chiefs' 61 fifth-round draft picks through 2023 never played a down for the Chiefs. I seem to be the only one thinking Bossa may be number 18 and will be on the practice squad. Gosh, I didn't have an idea about that, Aaron. That's an incredible stat. I'm gonna have to look that one up too and see who those 17 are. No, I would say Bossa is 90% to make this roster. Not just because Spags seems to be pretty high on Bossa and he's a really smart player. I mean, it's a draft pick, obviously that helps, but he's going to be a really good special teams player for them this year. And I mean, I don't mean to invoke the name of Dorian O'Daniel in a negative way because Dorian O'Daniel was a great special teams player for this team and won a Super Bowl as a special teams player on this team. That's legitimate, but that's my only concerning comparison for Bossa. Even though Bossa is bigger than Dorian O'Daniel, he's still kind of a tweener type player for this position. I mean, it just the weight just is the only real issue. I mean, he's a tall guy, so like I said, he's just too big for a safety and a little small for a linebacker. But great size for special teams player. So he is going to be a legit special teams player. Can he be more than that and be a linebacker that gives you some good work? I think he will be. I'm just not sure how quick and early it will be into his rookie year. Maybe it won't be until year 2, but there's a lot to work with there because, like I said, even though he's not the biggest guy, there's a lot of skills there and a really smart player too. Yeah, Callie, I don't know if anybody asked specifically how many drives. I honestly would give Josh Simmons like at least 3 drives. I don't think the Chiefs will. And I actually was thinking about this today because I haven't seen any evidence necessarily yet. I mean, there's still 2 more practices to go, but haven't seen any evidence yet that Andy Reid would consider giving Gardner Minshew any snaps with the first team offense, because I think that would be one of the things that could possibly happen to give Simmons and Kingsley more work. Would be to go ahead and let Mahomes come out and have a drive and then let Gardner Minshew have a drive with the ones. Gardner hasn't taken any snaps with the ones that we've seen in training camp thus far. So that would be my only concern, is that usually Andy wants to have at least a practice or 2 where the backup has taken some wet reps with the ones. So maybe he's planning on that in preseason game 2 or 3. Maybe he's not planning on it at all. Who knows? So I imagine that Simmons will get as many drives as the first team gets. Last year, first team got 1 drive. Maybe with 2 new linemen in 2 different spots, Andy will go a little bit further, maybe go the entire first quarter. So maybe 2 drives. We don't know. And just because Andy says something on Thursday doesn't mean that's what he'll do on Saturday. I think usually for this first game, he would say, hey, the ones will get the first quarter, and then second quarter, the 2s, 3s will get the third quarter. And then some combination will get, the 4s, even though there's not a 4s, but some guys will get that fourth quarter reps. I mean, it doesn't usually work out that way. So let's see what happens. I'm predicting 1 drive for the first team offense and for Simmons, but I would love to see more. Pano, what are your opinions about Jason Dunn as a great tight end? He's a definite class act on the Chiefs Concerns podcast. My memory of Jason Dunn is being such a fantastic blocking tight end. And at that time when he was with the Chiefs had so many right tackle concerns that the groundswell was to have Jason Dunn start at right tackle for the Chiefs. And I mean, it was comical because, I mean, a great blocking tight end isn't that offensive tackle. But that was a legitimate conversation at the time with this team. And yeah, I mean, Jason Dunn was a fantastic blocking tight end. He catched the ball a little bit too. I'm trying to remember, was he with the Bucs as well? I seem to have some memories of him with the Buccaneers. And I was not on the beat back then. I was just watching the games. But he was a fun player to watch. And yeah, I've heard a little bit of Jason's and podcasts and everything. And he does seem like it continue to be a class act. He seemed like that as a player too. Albert, do you think that Kingsley will be better than Tooney in run blocking? And I'm going to. I should not speak for Nick because Nick is not here, but I think Nick will agree with me that he will not be. I mean, you're hoping Kingsley's going to be good, but I mean, Tooney was good at everything. So I'm not sure that either blocking or pass blocking. I don't think any run blocking. I'm not betting on Kingsley being better than Joe Tooney because Joe Tooney was better than most people at both of those things. Just my take. Not I shouldn't speak for Nick, so maybe he would have a different view. I don't think he would though. Andrew, does the most recent draft class have more hype than the 22 draft class? Will they be better than the 22 draft class? I mean, in retrospect, as much as the 22 draft class gets a lot of love, and certainly part of it's because the 2 first round picks were hits. You got good players in Karlaftis and McDuffie. And there was so much excitement about the Fab Five, but in looking back on it, there was a lot of inconsistency with the Fab Five. McDuffie has been the one true hit. Brian Cook has probably then been the second most successful starter from that group. Then I think you would go with Jaylen Watson. Then is it Nazi or Josh Williams? I mean, I know that the Chiefs if you look back on it now from back then in 2022, I think that the Chiefs would say that they wish they'd gotten more out of those corners. And at the same time, I mean, I don't think that's a knock on Dave Merritt at all. I mean, remember, I mean, what you're talking about in that class with those guys, Jaylen Watson or Najee Johnson was a 7th. I'm trying to remember. Jaylen was a 5th, I believe. Josh Williams was a 4th, and and that was with a guy that just had a great measurables and smaller school and a ton of upside. And I think that, hey, for where they were taken in the draft, they've given great value. It's just that they showed so much more promise. I mean, all those guys looked like, hey, maybe these guys could be starting corners. And for where you got them in the draft, there was no guarantee that was going to happen. But they showed such promise, and it's just, I think it's probably been a little frustrating for the Chiefs that they haven't gotten the continued consistency and success out of that group. That they've all played well. They were all played well as rookies. They all played well as second-year players for the most part. I mean, Najee had the injury, so that's a little bit different situation, but they just, I don't know if they've ever been able to get them over the hump into that consistency range. And that's just, I think, the thing that's, frustrated the Chiefs. A great draft class nonetheless still. 2025 looks like it could be a really good class too. I mean, but like I mentioned earlier, Andrew, it just takes 1 or 2 players not to work out the way that you envision it. And it's always possible. And Brashard Smith, as much as I like him, maybe be one of those. He might end up being a receiver. I don't know. Maybe he's better suited for that. He certainly shows a lot of talent there, and I know that there's some concerns about whether he can be a running back at this level. But if not, if he turns into a wide receiver, might be a really good wide receiver too. And for a 7th round guy, that's still a good landing of a pick. Boss is a tweener, so there's some questions there. But yeah, let's see what happens. But I don't want to put too much pressure on the 25 class. But 22 was good. I think that I think you just wish it was a little better. And Andrew, also, what was the last rookie that has had as much hype as Josh Simmons has had in the training camp? I thought about this one too. And I mean, you could. I mean, there have been first-round picks that the Chiefs have had since then. Obviously, I mean, the easy answer is Patrick Mahomes. And so because Patrick Mahomes was the biggest hype in training camp that I've ever seen. If you're simply to eliminate, Patrick from the answer, I think my next one would be Tyreek, because Tyreek was just so simply off the charts amazing in that 2016 training camp that, it's everybody was just blown away. I mean, every day he's just seemed to do something that it just seemed like nobody should be doing on a football field. It was just so impressive. And it also speaks to what I say about, hey, Jalen Royals and the way that the Chiefs even had to put Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy in the microwave the last couple of years to get them ahead of the game. Tyreek had a better training camp than any other rookie receiver in 2016. It might be just the best training camp that any Chiefs receiver has had in the last 10 years that I've been covering this team, these last 10 training camps. And he didn't break 600 yards receiving. I mean, that's just how difficult it is in Andy Reid's offense to play as a rookie. And it says a lot about Rashee and about Xavier that they did what they did in their rookie years. Also says a lot about the guys that were around him and the struggles that they had. But it's... yeah, I mean, for the hype though, yeah, Patrick's hype was off the charts. Lateral. Oh, that was the Nick question that that he didn't answer, by the way. So, Peter, am I the only one interested in trying a 6-man offensive line set? I mean, you're gonna see it a couple of times when they bring in a 6th lineman to run block, or they're gonna throw to Caliendo or somebody else. So you're going to see it a few times. So there's no doubt about that. Yep. Saw Jason Kelsey gave a good review of Josh Simmons. I mean, once again, there's a lot of everybody who so far has seen him really likes him. I'm just interested to see what some of the takes around the league are going to be once they get a little bit of a look at Josh Simmons and these preseason games. Aaron, am I the only one that can't find the questions being answered in the comment section? Never had that happen. I don't know. You're not talking about like everybody else answering questions or us answering questions. I'm not sure. Fill me in, Aaron, and we'll try and figure out what's going on. Oh, you're just seeing different questions. Yeah, it could. If you're watching on, you might watch on YouTube. You might not be seeing questions that come in from Twitter. So there are a few of those. I think maybe we got a Facebook question tonight. So that is a possibility. And yeah, that's most likely the scenario, Nikki, is that I once again pontificate on too many things too long and send the chat back so badly that I ruin everything, as I think Nick would agree. Yeah, Nikki gave a pretty good answer there, Nikki. Did the public relations team release the depth chart like many teams, or did the coaches? I always get in a little bit of trouble for this, so I'm just going to try and speak my truth. And if anybody has a problem with it or says that I've communicated it wrongly, I will gladly offer your definition or your explanation of the how the process works. But I mean, the depth chart is included in the game notes for the game. I mean, the Chiefs do it every week for every game that they play, game depth chart. The first one of training camp and the first release game notes release for the preseason game always gets the most attention. It's always labeled as an unofficial depth chart. So there's I don't really know what the distinction is between an unofficial and an official depth chart, but it's unofficial. And yes, the public relations team for the Chiefs puts it together. The coach, there are coaches who do see it and sign off on it. How long they look at it, your mileage may vary, maybe even make some changes on it. That I can't say that I've ever been told that does or does not happen. So there's a little bit of secrecy on it. But yes, it does originate with the public relations team. And like I said, I'm not going to quibble with I've had some quibbles in the past, and maybe it's not been fair of me because I know the people who put these together, they work really hard on it. They do a really good job. And like I said, I thought that this year's depth chart was honestly the best, most organized one. And reflected my observations the most of any depth chart I've ever seen. So I haven't mentioned that to the PR team. I need to, because they deserve to know they did a great job on it. Do I have a couple of quibbles? Sure, but I could be wrong on my couple of quibbles. So I think that this year's depth chart you can put a lot of stock in. There, like I said, there might be a couple of things that I have some questions about, or maybe just don't reflect what I've seen, but I could be wrong. So I say go with it, and it gives you a lot of good information. So I have no problem telling you to trust the depth chart, and we'll see what happens going forward. I think we are getting down to the end. So if there's any last questions that you want to get answered, it will almost be answered in real time. Let me know. Yeah, Scott, we talked about how many drives should the starting offensive line play this game. I would honestly, like I said, I'd like to see 2 or 3, maybe at least one with Gardner Minshew, but probably be 1 or 2 maybe. So we'll see what happens. But I would be trying to figure out how you get a few more snaps for Justin Simmons and for Kingsley Suamataia, maybe without having to get everybody else out there. I am not deleting questions, Brian. What? I would never do that. And I think, let's see, I know, I'm trying to remember who's the other one. Luttrell is one of our moderators that can get rid of inappropriate content. I thought actually, Brian, you were a moderator, but I could be wrong. So maybe you're deleting questions. Zoo 19, have you, the Chiefs, inquired about the field conditions in Brazil? Just don't trust the league to handle it. I do know that the Chiefs have been in communication with Brazil, with the grounds crew down there, with the NFL. There's been communication throughout the whole process about what's going on with the field. I know they're prepping it a little bit different way to try and make it a little bit less slick this time around. They're certainly, certain at some place they're at the will of the weather and the conditions in Brazil. So I know there were some slipping problems last year. It sounded like there was just more condensation on the field than maybe the NFL expected. They are, as like I said, I mean, my understanding is that the Chiefs and their grounds crew and their people have been in contact with the NFL and the people in Sao Paulo throughout the process on getting it all together. So, yes, I see that Matt gets paid by the word. I finally got there, Nikki. Yeah. Oh, yes. The old Governor's Cup. I know. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Governor's Cup is in the Chiefs Hall of Fame. If I'm not mistaken, over at Arrowhead. Missed the Governor's Cup though. Those were the good old days. Mitchell, in your opinion, which wide receiver leads the Chiefs in touchdowns? No, I'm not asking for fantasy. Why would you think that? I would say, if talking about receivers, I think it's going to be Rashee Rice. That would be my guess. I think Rashee's primed for a pretty big year. Hey, it could be Xavier. I think those would be your top two bets as just receivers. I mean, hey, could it be Travis Kelce? Sure. I mean, it could be a tight end. But I would think that I'm going to bet on Rashee's being that guy. So, but again, if you lose at fantasy football because of this, Mitchell, I am not responsible, because I have retired from fantasy football and my life has been great since then. I don't think Florio is a Chiefs hater. I just think he's a moron, but that's all I'm going to say. And I can say it now since Nick is not here. Oh dear. Let's see. Yeah, Brian, we know how you feel, Brian. That's okay. Yeah, I mean, and Nick talked about this earlier, and I didn't really dive into it too much. I mean, the Addison suspension doesn't really change my opinion at all about what's going to happen with Rashee Rice. Really, it's apples and oranges, two different things. There's a blueprint for those types of suspensions and about what it's going to be and what it's been in the past. So we just don't have a lot of history about these types of incidents that Rashee had and how it's going to work out. So that's why I think that there's a pretty wide variance. I mean, I'd be really surprised if it's 10 games. I mean, everybody I talk to seems to be in the 2 to 6 range, and 4 to 6 is probably the most common range. But once again, like Nick and I said, you just never know what the NFL and Roger Goodell is going to do. Bumpa, did Omar Norman Lott gain weight from the combine? He looks a little bigger and slower to me, better for run defense, but I think it might affect his explosiveness rushing the passer. It's a good question. I'm trying to remember in my head if we went back and talked about weight and everything with Omar Norman Lott. I feel like that there's a possibility that he may have added a little bit. I know that was one of the things that if he was going to be able to add being a run defender in there, that he was going to have to put on a little bit of weight, and maybe just for even the NFL level. I don't know. We're probably not going to get to talk much to Omar Norman Lott until I probably won't get to see him again until maybe after the third preseason game. Maybe when it might even be week 1. I mean, it's and week 1's even going to be tough with the Brazil trip. But I'll check in with him and see what he says. I do think there's a possibility that he probably has gained a little bit of weight, and if it's good weight, if it's muscle, that's not a problem. And like I said, I mean, he may just even needed a little bit just to be able to stand up a little bit more on the interior in the NFL. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, his numbers from college as far as success rate are bound to be lower in the NFL because of the way that Tennessee managed their rushers. They consistently rotated these guys, so they didn't play that much, but they played 100% every single time. And I'm not saying NFL guys don't, but when you play 235 snaps versus 600 snaps, your 100% is different than the other 100%. So that's my only question about Omar Norman Lott. I think there's a lot of skill there. I think there's a lot of athleticism from just strength and agility. I think there's a lot to like. So we'll see what happens. We still need to work on the hat thing. And thank you, Nikki, for saying that I do not ruin things. So I appreciate that. Just low self-esteem over here. That's consistent. Aaron, who's the biggest offensive line? Kingsley looks huge, but Hurd Moore's bigger. I mean, I'm just thinking to myself here, not I am going to go look at their numbers now that you've brought it up, and see who was listed as the heaviest. It might influence a little bit of my decision about. Gosh, and I was looking for maybe I passed the positional depth chart here. The positional roster, rather. I probably did I? No, I'm not. Oh, there's the positional roster, but it doesn't have their weights there. That's okay. I can just see most of them are in the 50s and 70s, so we'll figure it out. Creed's not huge. He's listed at 302. Let's see. Josh Simmons is listed at 310. I'd say that's pretty accurate. Jawan 330. It's probably pretty accurate. Could be Kingsley's listed at 326. I would bet that Jawan is bigger than Kingsley by a hair. So that would make sense that they got Jawan at 330 and Kingsley at 326. Jaylen Moore's listed at 311. I gotta think he's a little bigger than that, but Esapol's listed at 319. Of course, he's 6'7". Let's see. Ethan Driscoll's listed at 313 and he's 6'8". Those might be fairly legit. I wouldn't be surprised if Esapol is a little heavier than that. If you're just talking about pure weight and everything put together, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Jawan. Jawan's not fat. I mean, he's it's legit. I mean, he's got muscle. I was just joking, Lateral. I know you wouldn't be deleting anything here, and I don't think Brian is. I'm trying to remember. I know there's a second admin here. I was thinking at one point it was Brian, but he doesn't have the little wrench next to his name. So, and Aaron's saying he heard Omar Normalat. Hey, gain 20 pounds. That's possible. Very, very possible. Bobby, it seems like there are questions every training camp about Jaylen Watson, but then he performs well during the season. He was a top 2 cornerback. Is he just better in games than training camp? Hey, yeah, I mean, I would say that, and that he wouldn't be alone in that. I mean, there's a lot of players I think are better in games than they are in practice, and that's just and there's the vice versa. There's a lot of guys who are better in practice than they are in games. I mean, that's legit. So, it happens. And I think even in games, though, I think that the Chiefs have just always wanted a little bit more from Jaylen Watson. I mean, and for his draft pick, I think he's been great. I think that, it's just, hey, I think that the Chiefs thought in year one, it's like, hey, this is a guy that's got starting, being legit starting long-term 8 to 10 year kind of, quality. And he's been good, but he just hasn't taken that next jump that the Chiefs always kind of wanted him to take. And maybe we're being too hard on Jaylen because he's been a good player, and maybe who knows, maybe he's going to go somewhere else after Kansas City and find a system that's a little bit better for him and play even better. That can happen. I mean, Traveris Ward, I thought was a really good player in Kansas City, but he clearly took a step and took a leap forward in San Francisco and played even better. So it can happen. And like I said, maybe I'm not discounting the possibility that we're being too hard on Jaylen. Maybe the Chiefs are being too hard on Jaylen. I mean, obviously they like Jaylen. That's not the knock here. It's just that they've always wanted a little bit more consistency out of all 3 of those guys. So it's been an interesting journey with all of them. Yeah, no, I definitely don't want to answer. I'm definitely going to have to be dealing with the keyboard after the show. So we'll definitely be addressing that. Luckily, it's no sugar, so in the tea. So at least I have that going for me. I think this might be the final question, unless there's any last calls out there. From Mitchell, from what you've seen, isn't Elijah Mitchell better than Pacheco and Hunt? I'm not hearing about him getting playing time. From what I've seen, I mean, it's once again, I mean, judging the running game in training camp is so hard because you don't. I mean, it's really a lot of it is based on trying to get down the blocking patterns, and it's about getting the defense working on their attack lanes, and you don't see in training camp a run game like it exists in the real world. It's just different. I don't know how better to explain it. It's a lot more. I mean, just because of the way it's executed and the way it's called and the way it's managed. I mean, that's why I'll be really intrigued to see what happens in the preseason games. But I do know that at this point, hey, the Chiefs, their depth chart's real for a reason. I mean, they feel like that Pacheco at this point is their best running back. Hunt is their second best running back, and there are days when they might think that Kareem Hunt is their best running back, and Elijah Mitchell is third. But all three of those guys are different. Pacheco is obviously a hard runner. Kareem at this point is I would say a hard, sneaky runner. Elijah Mitchell, they want him to be fast, and he should be fast. I don't know that they've seen the explosion that they want from him. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I think they're just still waiting for it. And once, I alluded to the question earlier about Jaylen Watson and game time. Maybe you're going to see that in the preseason game. Maybe you're going to see Elijah Mitchell all of a sudden, show what he can really do in a game that doesn't show up in practice, because practice running the football is weird. Maybe he just needs to have game-setting conditions rather than practice conditions, and that's going to work it out. But from what I've seen so far, I think it's a long battle, from Elijah Mitchell to overtake Hunt and Pacheco in the backfield. And I think even as optimistic as I was about Brashard Smith, I mean, I'm tapping the brakes a little bit there, just because I think it's pretty evident that as a good of an athlete as he is, and as much potential as there is there, he's just got a lot to learn about the running back position and the patience that's involved, and waiting for your blocks to set up. And he's admitted that. I mean, he understands that. And I think there's probably even, once again, just a little bit of, he and Mitchell are kind of a little bit the same in this, form. They're not as big as those other guys, at least, as far as the thickness goes, and be able to take the hits. And with Elijah, I mean, it could still certainly be a little bit of just knocking on the rust. Maybe he's just needing to get to that one point where he kind of breaks through and kind of finds his rhythm again. But that's about the best way I could put it right now. I mean, he just doesn't look like he's kind of found his rhythm yet. And with Brashard, it's just a matter of time. I mean, he needs some experience. And so I still say I think Brashard Smith's going to be an interesting player this year. I still think Elijah Mitchell makes this roster. I mean, unless there's something dramatic happens, because the Chiefs want explosion. They want speed in this offense and in this backfield. And Pacheco and Hunt aren't going to give it to you. I mean, you need somebody else. So the Chiefs really would like for one of those guys to break out. In camp so far, we just haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen them progress to the point where you could say, okay, this is your speed back. That just hasn't happened. So everybody, thank you so much. I apologize that I clearly did not manage my time as efficiently as I promised to. Otherwise, we would have been done like a half hour ago. But I do appreciate everybody for coming in. I appreciate everybody who watches this afterwards, even if you fast forward through to find your questions and eventually find out what I said to something that you asked an hour ago. One day I'm going to get better at managing all my time and get better at this. So, Nikki, no matter how hard you try and boost my confidence, I'm always going to blame myself. Everybody have a great night. Appreciate you all for stopping by and joining the show tonight. Thanks once again for all the great questions. You are all the best. Unless anything big happens, Nick and I will be joining you on Sunday for 41 is the Mic, where we will be breaking down the first preseason game. Thank goodness. And then, of course, next Tuesday, we'll be back for another Q&A as always. So thank you all so much. Appreciate the support. As Brian likes to remind everybody, and Gary too, everybody, Sharon, Nikki, Luttrell, you all do it too. Please hit the like button. Make sure to follow us along. Subscribe to Chiefs Digest so you get notified when we got our videos coming out. We've got a lot of stuff going up through camp. Going to be working on more. Always trying to get more and add some new stuff to what we do. So Hopefully that will be coming in the weeks and months ahead. But that's right. And it is 1 month until real football. We cannot wait. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you on Sunday for 41 is the Mic.